We are live right now.
Okay.
Are you in a bathroom or are you in this like really cool, ultra modern Swedish hotel room?
I'm just in a hotel room. I bet there's a bed right there.
Oh, okay. It's just like when I picture like Sweden, that's like what I picture, like a Swedish hotel room. I don't know, just a
Is there
lot
a
of work.
line straight down to the screen?
There is a line.
What is
That-
that?
You must have a light above your head or something. There's a glare or something.
Oh, it's that light.
Oh, all right.
Whatever.
Yeah,
How do I do
we'll make it
this?
work. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Uh, Man, it's actually been a week since we didn't really talk too much this weekend. We just texted back and forth, but you're 9 hours ahead, I think, or yeah, something like that.
I think 9 hours from California, 7 hours from Chicago area, but
Yeah,
it was pretty busy in Madrid. So,
yeah,
and the time, and with the time difference, yeah, less available hours in the day to have conversation.
yeah. Um, well, we'll talk about Madrid here for a second, but yeah. First thing I want to say is just like again, just I don't know the support, especially I get to see a lot of back end stuff, but the support we got this weekend for the coverage was amazing, and a lot of people again were messaging, we want to support be friendly. So when it comes to be friendly, the best way to support us is actually through our Patreon, um, and we've added new tiers. There's 3 tiers right now. They're different, varying levels of prices. I think $3, and I think the top tier is 18 or 19. I'll have to confirm that. But with the top tier, one thing we're doing is we're making specialized shirts for the top tier Patreon. So you'll be identified as as one of our top tier patrons because of this shirt. It's a pretty cool shirt. It really has that be friendly vibe to it. But yeah, so for anyone that's asking, that's probably the best way to support us through our Patreon outside of following us and commenting. And I mean, the support's been amazing, anyways. How was the support over in Madrid?
That was great. We were broadcasting a lot, and we were fairly far removed from the field of play and the fans and everything, so not as much like in the action as some of the others. They always have
Mhm.
different. We were up high behind the sound barrier so that the loud music wouldn't affect the stream.
Yeah,
So not, but I went down when I could into like the vendor village areas, and there was plenty of volunteers and stuff that said hi, and people who've been following along for a long time. Some people just out in the um, just fans and stuff. So it was great to. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm doing this is to meet
mhm.
some different people and some different communities. And the Spanish community was very cool, and got to meet some people from all different parts of Europe that came in to volunteer or watch or compete in the competition as well. Because there wasn't just the elite competition; it was 2,800 athletes there. So there were a few athletes from all over the place that were competing.
Yeah. Ernie, I'm not. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, the feed was great. I thought you and Greg did awesome. I mean, um, yeah, I just thought everything was great. I think you did a good job of balancing each other. Having Elliot on, I'm a big fan of Elliot, and then having him on, I thought that was really cool to bring on a programmer and brought a different perspective. And of course, it's always good to hear, that he has a really cool accent. I just thought it was really cool because you had 3 different like accents and dialects basically on, and it was pretty neat. It really showed like I guess the international feel of something like Madrid. I mean, when you think Madrid, you think Spain and a bunch of Spanish athletes, but it was very international this year than past years, it seemed like.
Yeah, extremely. And there were athletes from some pretty cool places that made the trip over there. Puerto Rico, South Korea, New Zealand, a couple from South America, Mexico, all over Europe, from Canada, of course, from the US. So you had I think, absent of Africa in the elite division, you had pretty much the whole globe represented for the most part. There's some other, so it was really, yeah, it was very good.
Yeah. But again, we appreciate the support, especially I know Brian does when he's at these events. Please, when you see him, go say hi. He loves to take a
It's always funny though. People will come up and say, "Brian, so happy I ran into you. I appreciate all this stuff." and they never introduce themselves by their name. I always have to ask their name.
Yeah.
I want to know your
Oh,
name. If
that's
you
good.
come up to say hi, tell me your name, tell me who you are. I mean, there are moments that I might not be able to stay and talk for a couple of minutes if I have to
Mhm.
be somewhere, but otherwise I'm happy to have those conversations, but I want to know you too.
There you go. You heard it from him. Say your name. Give him a fist bump, shake his hand, take a picture, but all he asks is for your name. That's it. Like, there's so much stuff going on right now, Brian. But here, just you can answer from Emil. Gets Gilo.
Possibly, you find me quick when you get there, and maybe if I have a limited supply, so depending on the size and what you want, I may have something.
Yeah, but also introduce and say your name if you do. If you do. But for people that know, Brian actually is not in Madrid right now. You are in. Where are you?
A Stockholm. That's what Spanish way to say Stockholm
Yeah.
for Audrey.
Yeah. He is. Yeah, he is in. He is in Sweden right now. So this would be stop 5.
I can't keep. I don't even know if I can keep track. I think in terms of yeah, it's top five. That's right. Because I did last 4 weeks, 4 consecutive weeks of
Mhm.
broadcasting. Y ahora que estoy aquí en Stockholm, pero todavía estoy pensando en español.
There you go. See, the
No,
odd, and you didn't even have to pay for that.
it's actually so interesting. Ever since the time I spent in the Dominican Republic when I was learning Spanish, anytime that I travel to a place where English isn't the first language, I default to Spanish. That doesn't make any sense. I'm like in Finland, thinking that if somehow I speak Spanish, it's going to help. Obviously, it's not going to help at all. English is far better chance of being understood, but that's just how my mind works. Like go to an international place and then I default to Spanish. So being in Spain was kind of cool. I don't go to that many Spanish speaking countries anymore, or I haven't recently at least. And I was able to communicate in Spanish, but as soon as I start speaking, everyone there knows like, okay, this guy doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah, we'll speak English. We'll help you out. Yeah.
I
Uh,
would say it was like 75%, like 3 out of 4 people, they're
mhm,
like English is okay, and that's gonna be the better bet. But one of every four, their English is worse than my Spanish. So
mm,
then we would have a conversation in Spanish.
yeah. Well, you're in Sweden now, so I guess you know. Yeah, you won't have to worry about Spanish too much. But yeah. So you're in Stockholm right now. Before we one talk about Madrid, talk about what's going on. Just kind of just catching today. Obviously, is 9/11, September 11th. So want to send a shout out to all our all the first responders in the U.S. and military members. I mean, it's obviously this is obviously a day that really affects me. Someone that I mean, I my whole life in terms of my military career took a change. Before 9/11, I was actually going to get out of the military, and after it happened, it just I'm not like overly patriotic type of person, but I am very it's just it's one of those things. So I don't know. Do you remember where you were at during 9/11, Brian?
Absolutely. I was a freshman in high school. I was in homeroom, and they started getting the whispers and whatever, and then someone turned on the news in there, and you watched what you want to watch. They didn't make anyone stay like it was. But yeah, I remember pretty clearly. And actually, when I woke up this morning, or maybe it was last night, I can't keep track of it. And I saw because Adrian Bosman's doing the programming for the next 2 weeks on CrossFit.com, and I was like, that's weird. Like I lose track of the days and everything and whatever. The only day I have in my mind is October 2nd. That's the next time I'll be in my house. And I saw that he programmed any hero WOD you want, and I didn't put two and two together at first. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like the very first day of the 2 week cycle that he's programming, that he would just do something where you could pick anything, and then you'll have no idea what these people did, and tomorrow could be anything you want. Or you might have been doubling down on a squats or muscle ups or whatever's in a hero WOD. Then it was nice actually. About an hour ago, he went on live. I just happened to be on my phone, so I clicked on, and he was talking about why he chose to do that. And he's like, this is just a day to remember and to be grateful and to work hard. And he chose a Yeti to do it. So the hero workout that he did, and he went on and talked about it a little bit. So that's actually, by the time I figured out what was going on, I was like, that's pretty cool that Adrian did that.
Yeah, yeah. It's for those that know, we're going to talk about it later. But Dave, I guess CrossFit announced that the main site programming was going to be first start off with Dave, but they're going to bring in certain athletes, people, celebrities, whatever. But this for the next 2 weeks, at 2 week periods, it's going to be Adrian. So I would say if I'm a CrossFit athlete, to
Pay
kind of
attention.
pay attention for the next couple of weeks. Just who knows? I mean, I would just pay attention because this could be stuff that he might be just trying out. So we do know that CrossFit has a tendency to leak some stuff on main sites. So when you have someone like Bosman, and
Well, and you
just
get like even with the 2 weeks that Dave did, he mentioned I
yeah,
like the short interval of
mhm,
retest. So the first day and the last day of his 2 week cycle was the same workout, and then you had a guy on one of his weeks in review that asked, "Would you ever consider doing the first workout and
yeah,
last workout of the games the same?" And
mhm,
Dave was like, "Not a bad
ooh,
idea. I'm going to file that one away." So
yeah,
those are the little things. Obviously, Dave and Adrian are not going to be the guest programmers all the time, but for the
sure,
2 weeks that Dave was and the 2 weeks that Adrian is, yeah, definitely, at least be paying attention, take some notes. You never know; it can't hurt.
yeah. So but it is a day of remembrance, especially here in the United States. So, I want to, send a shout out to all the service members, all the first responders, everyone that just pretty much volunteers their time to serve a bigger purpose. So, if you have a time today, maybe take a moment or reflect or whatever. But I think that's usually the questions like people ask, like, "What were you? Do you remember what you did?" And I think that is a perfect example of remembering, and that's why I asked you, Brian. So it's kind of neat. It's one of those moments, but unfortunate incident, but it's something we can all tie together, and talk about. Oh God, this weekend, me and Sevon were texting a lot on Saturday. Anytime there's a UFC fight, especially big one, me and Sevon, we just go back and forth on UFC. So there would be Brian, you're like a very very casual UFC fan, but there was a huge upset in Australia. One of the guys who they thought was pound to pound took on this American named Sean Strickland, who's just kind of a last minute replacement, and he won 185 pound, which is one of the higher weight classes, and upset the guy. Basically, he's from New Zealand, so he pretty much had the home crowd and upset him, and it was a pretty cool moment. And then,
Well, most people like an upset, so that's great.
yeah, and then I think what people like him is like he's one of these guys who he just says whatever the hell he wants. He lived like a rough life, coming up. He never even graduated high school, doesn't even have a GED. He just likes to fight,
Is this
and
like Happy Gilmore?
he pretty much could be the Happy Gilmore of UFC. But yeah, he's just a dude, man. He's someone like you watch, you're like, man, I'd like to have a beer with that guy and just talk. But yeah, and this weekend the NFL kicked off. So that was pretty cool. My fantasy football teams, one of my three did really well. I don't think you're not playing any fantasy this year, are you?
I do
Football?
have 2 teams. I haven't seen them yet, though. My actually, my best friend he's been my best friend since probably 10, 11 years old around then. We've been doing fantasy teams together for 20 years, I think, in one of the leagues. And he 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 always front the money on one, I front the money on the other, and then we split the winnings on both. But he's taken over the totality of both of them. I just only pay for the one now. I I am meaning to log in and look at what our teams are. I just haven't done it yet. I'll get around to it at some point. So I have no idea, but I did get a text from Nico Rono, a diehard Phillies fan, and he told me
Yeah.
the Bears will always be the Bears. And I was like, Nico, you don't need to tell me that. I fucking know.
Yeah, Nico. He's a huge Eagles fan. Hates the Cowboys, but you would think a guy from Finland, that guy just
Denmark,
loves
Denmark.
Denmark. Yeah, exactly. Just a huge, just NFL fan. But yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, we got a Monday night game tonight. I believe it's Aaron Rodgers' debut as a Jet, playing against the Buffalo Bills. So that's pretty cool.
There
Um.
was a Swedish guy on the plane sitting next to me today wearing a Patriots hat.
Oh. Okay. All right.
And dude, it was pretty cool. We flew from Spain, from Madrid up to Stockholm, and so you
Mhm.
basically go over land you go through Spain, France, and Germany. It's all over land, and then there's the water up there between Germany and Sweden. And
Yeah.
in the middle of the water out there, there was just this field of windmills in the water,
Mhm.
and then there were like tankers out there, like
Yeah.
big ships going past them, and it was a pretty cool sight to see. So he and I were kind of talking about that. I asked him about the Patriots. He's like, basically just said, that's a team his dad liked, and so he just liked that team. But anyway,
Yeah. Patriots. They played yesterday. It was actually a pretty decent game. They're playing the Eagles. So Nico's team, and it was actually went down to like the last play. And I know like two friends of ours, Todd Mulaney and Matt O'Keefe. They were actually at the game. They were supporting Mac Jones, who is a noble athlete that they're really close with. But they're at the game yesterday. So, but yeah. So that's kind of like what was going on there. Brian, were you keeping any dibs on disc golf this weekend?
no, I haven't. I did watch the World Championships. You spoiled
Okay.
it for me. You-
Am I spoiling this for you? Am I ruining this for you? Do you want me to keep on
Yes.
going on? Oh, do you want
No,
me to
that's
stop?
okay.
All
You
right.
can show me.
So,
It's fine. I
so this
haven't watched the
weekend,
Discmania Open yet, though.
yeah. So this Mania Open was this weekend. Prince Edward Island in Canada. So what they call that? Pia. I think that's where Annika is at. She's from that area.
Yes.
So, but yeah. So Eagle McMahon champion. He won in a playoff. And went to the playoffs. So yeah. So that's kind of what happened
Yeah.
on that. So.
I do want to catch up on it a little bit, and I'm going
Mhm.
to the U.S. Disc Golf Championship in a few weeks. The week after I get home, my
Yeah.
brother and Scott are flying down, and we're going to go to that. So I will stay up to date, and just in case I run into some of the athletes, or
Mhm.
I have actually got in touch with the one of the media people over there. So I think I'll be able to
Good.
get a little behind the scenes look at how they operate on the media side of things, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome. But yeah. Speaking of disc golf, you people have watched your stories or your posts. You did some fun, exciting stuff after when you had some free time, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Hanu, the guy who I went and
Yeah.
invited me to Finland, was down here. We were both working on the broadcast. He was basically the producer of the broadcast this week, and he loves to play disc golf. And on Friday, we had a day basically off. We had the lifting event in the evening, but all of the morning was off. And so Paul Macbeth, the six-time world champion, has a foundation that puts disc golf courses into countries around the world that don't have exposure to disc golf. And so his first one was in Mexico, which he has roots in Mexico. His family does, and he's done
Mhm.
two in Europe and one in Uganda. And one of the ones in Europe he did was in Madrid. It's the only disc golf course that I saw on the map in Madrid. It was actually closer to our hotel than the venue was. And I was like,
Oh,
Anu, we have to go here. And he's like, absolutely. I didn't bring my discs though. I was like, well, I have four, so we'll just do a two disc challenge. So I gave him the choice between putter and driver or mid-range and fairway driver. He chose putter and driver, so I didn't have a putter. I put with the mid-range disc. And there it is, Paul Macbeth Foundation course. Dude, the first hole, the first shot that you see on here, I almost
hmm.
aced it. It ramped off the top of the basket, this shot. It's the whole clip's not in there, but
Yeah,
and then we went on to play. It was an hour and a half or so, a nice course. We just took our time, enjoyed it. It was very fun.
yeah. Well, that's good. It's always good to that's always been kind of like your thing, anyways. When you go to these events, you're going to be busy, but you always try to find time to kind of have to yourself. And most of the time, when you do have yourself, you try to find a disc golf course, and then I don't know. I think that's really cool. That's always. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, that's how I was introduced to disc golf, because you would always ask somebody or invite someone to come out with you, just that way you have company and just have some fun. I mean, when we've had
Well,
some.
I'm going to play tomorrow. It's advertised as the oldest disc golf course in Europe. So if anyone's
Mhm.
in Stockholm and wants to go play, I'll probably be there around 11 or noon.
There you go. You heard it there. There's an invite. Um, but well, that's good. But again, you're in Madrid, so let's talk about Madrid. Um, so
By the way, Hanu played pretty well. He had no bogeys the whole day, two birdies, and he had that like 30-foot putt on 18 with the hill behind it, and he made it to secure the bogey-free round. I had 7 under, but I did have one bogey.
oh my goodness, no bogeys. I don't know what that means. I think I might have. I think I. I don't know how to play it without voting. I thought that's how you played. Oh, so Madrid. I mean, obviously, it's probably. I mean, it was top four. Probably your biggest, the biggest in terms of broadcast and scale and athletes competition you've done since the games in terms of you broadcasting. So yeah, let's just talk about. Let's just kind of dive right into it and talk
Yeah, I
about.
mean, of the four events that I've done the broadcast for the last 4 weeks, this is definitely the biggest one. It had the best athletes, and the depth of field was the biggest. The prize purse was the biggest. The viewership was the biggest. The production of the competition was the biggest. So yeah, it was kind of, it works out nice to have, kind of 3 weeks building up to the biggest one that I was going to be doing.
Mhm,
Um, but again, that's just me. I have a new partner on the broadcast with me. We have a new company that's never done a CrossFit competition before. The Madrid Championships have not done a broadcast like this previously. So there were, even though I have been kind of refining my craft a little bit, there were still elements of this that were new, as well.
yeah. Well, for those who are watching, I thought it was really good. The production of it. Obviously, you had Bella on the floor as well. I thought that was a pretty cool thing that you added to it because I think last year they didn't really do that interviewing on the floor. But the I think the highlight packages they put up, the graphics, you could definitely tell that it was a new team. They're trying to figure it out, but all the all the I guess the tools are there, or all the intent was there. But overall, it looked like it was great. I mean, there's no really any issues with sound. I could understand you and Greg pretty well. There were some times when they would cut down to Bella and her mic was really really low. But again, that could just be because they just have her mic being on the floor. Just so much music and stuff going on. They might have been drowning it down or turning her mic down. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a really good broadcast.
Thank you. I know from speaking actually at the I went to CrossFit Nordic earlier today, saw some friends
Mhm,
there, got a workout in, but uh, and the person who I met there for the first time was saying she watched the entire broadcast this weekend and that the lifting event was very difficult to follow, which I
mhm,
understand completely. And she actually gave me a suggestion that I thought was a very good suggestion. Basically, she's like, I didn't know where the lanes were on the floor, and I was trying to be very descriptive of what people were wearing and what they were doing, but I didn't
mhm.
think, because the floor layout for that was different than any other event. So I didn't think to actually do that. So that was like a good learning point for me. So I'm, always open to those things, always trying to improve. The main objective is to convey the story as in as much detail and depth as we can.
Before we go on, I want to eat Magnus and
Oh, okay, well, okay. Well, maybe I'll play two courses tomorrow. Why not?
yeah, and yeah, who knows? Maybe Magnus. Let Magnus know.
That's the one I was planning to go to, the Carson. It's advertised as the oldest one, but that maybe I can try the other one too if he thinks it's the most difficult or professional.
Yeah, and Magnus, if you're around and you got some free time, slide into Brian's DMs. Maybe you can play with him.
The
Um,
guy looks like he's very professional. He's probably working, probably
I
making a
know
lot
he's
of
wearing
money
a
tomorrow.
suit. Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe who knows? So yeah, going back to Madrid. Yeah, I think again it was a really good broadcast. You know, probably, but the field itself, like you said before, the field itself was probably the in terms of talent, probably the biggest that you've had since you've been here or since you've been on the world tour. And I mean, just looking at the men's field, this is the final leaderboard. Lazar, Yona, Travis is your 1, 2, 3, and then Luca just outside. You know, um,
I talked to Lazar, and then I talked to Yona right after everything had ended. There was they did the award ceremony for all the divisions, and then we had to do a little post show after the elite divisions at the end. But I went down there for a while, and I just was running into people and having conversations. Had a ton of great conversations. Lazar was like, "It's kind of weird. He beat me on 5 of the 7 tests, but I beat him on the competition. So I'm not sure how I feel about it." And Yona was like, "Well, I totally screwed up the lifting event, so that's on me."
Yeah. Speaking, I mean, Lazar did something that's really you don't see very often. Is he won a lifting event and turned around in less than 24 hours and won a running event.
Basically,
A
like
5K.
12 or 14 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you don't. I mean, you don't. I kind of had a discussion with someone about this yesterday regarding like the military has their ACFT and we took an ACFT this weekend. It's really hard to score a perfect score because there's there's a 3 rep max deadlift and then you have to run a 2 mile run. And that's usually people who are really good at deadlift are typically not people that are really good at running. So this is kind of bring this full circle. It's kind of like someone like Lazar, who isn't known for strength, but he wins the lifting event. And then it turns around and wins the running event. So it's just, I don't, the balance and it was impressive. Like the lifting itself, I mean, it wasn't like the competition was full weaker non-lifters. I just think that Lazar just got stronger.
Look at Travis Mayer on the lifting. He was sixth, 1 kilo less than Lazar, and it's a 24-point difference because
Yeah.
there were 5 guys that lifted 155, but of those
Hmm.
5 guys, Lazar's second lift was the heaviest at 152.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's.
there you can see who they are. And I mean, and I was expecting Kevin Jours to be probably to win this. He
Hmm.
went for 161 and missed it. And
Hmm.
I mean, Lazar's been posting. He within the last, I don't know, 10 days before this competition, he posted a 160 and a
Yeah.
157 clean and jerk. But of
Hmm.
course, competition is different. You have the double under
Hmm.
buy-in. It's the third test. Um, but dude, that was the best part about this whole thing was Lazar and Luca both
Yes.
hitting 155 in different halves of the draw on the floor at the same time, and their reaction and celebration afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
it's just anyone who has a sibling, a brother, especially a brother, if you've played sports, or a sister if you're a girl, and to have that opportunity to be there on the floor at the same time at an elite level competition and both hit a big lift like that, take 1 and 2,
Hmm.
it was pretty cool. And I didn't run into them that day, but I saw them after the run the next morning, and they were still like talking about it. So
I they put a clip up of Luca on the Madrid Instagram of him in that lift, and they slowed it down for dramatic effect, and you can just see how hyped he was, and immediately ran over to Lazar, and you could just see that if you thing about Lazar is like that I mean, obviously they're siblings, but he generally loves and cares for Luca, and I think that was on full display when we were at Lowlands, when Luca didn't make it, and Lazo said it was the hardest victory or the most disappointing victory or the saddest victory he ever had because he went into that final event thinking him and Luca were both going to make it to the games, and Luca ended up coming up short, and Lazar won. But it's really
and
cool
this
to see
was a
that.
great. I mean, I know Luca ends up missing the podium barely here, but this was a
Mhm.
really important and good competition for him and his. I mean, I've known Luca for several years now, and
Yeah,
he's 24. He's about to be 25, and
yeah.
actually he's going to have his birthday in the middle of the Dubai Championships this year.
Okay.
Um, so we can celebrate with him. But I was really impressed with his attitude and his demeanor, and I mean, he still is very invested in, he. And in the past, I could see him being really upset about the fourth place, but he was choosing instead to focus on the positives. I mean, look, those are really good guys. Yona was sixth at the
Mhm.
games. Lazar
Mhm.
was, ninth at the games. Travis has made the games 8 times.
Mhm.
Yona's made it 9 times. Like, these guys are really good. And Travis had the whole summer off to train and prepare, and like this was
Mhm.
kind of him coming back and making a statement. He wasn't happy with his performance last year in Dubai. He took the season off. He mentioned that he was considering
Yeah.
or contemplating not competing anymore. He got the fire reignited in him, and he came here with a purpose. Travis Mayer. So like finishing behind those 3 guys is not a bad result at all, and he was right in the battle the entire weekend. You see his results there. He's the first workout is the strict handstand pushups is a weakness for Luca, and that
Mhm.
was a bad performance, relative to the rest of his. But look, he backs it up with the first, second, and he gets right back in the conversation. So
Yeah.
it was Luca had to withdraw from the semifinals this year due to a flu, and then that virus stuck with him. And if you saw what happened at the French Throwdown,
Mhm.
took like 20th place there. He still said he wasn't feeling, he hadn't recovered. He felt like that knocked him back 6 months, 6 to 12 months from his where he perceived his training to be at. So this was a good checkpoint for him to say, like, okay, I am back where I want to be. I am here competing against big names and great athletes in this sport. And that just has, gotten him kind of back in a competitive mindset, and he's looking forward to Dubai to have a chance to do it again.
I want the lifting event. It wasn't just a flat max lift. There was a buy into it, and you had a unique opportunity to kind of try out the buy-in. What did you think?
Okay. I think I ended up getting 3 or 4 in a row with so
Okay.
it's a bar double under is what they called it. This is
Mhm.
the jump rope basically slides in and screws into a bar. It's a steel bar, has some grips for some holds on it. You can make a makeshift one. Um, and the adaptive athletes use it though with one
Mhm.
arm, and it's very impressive that they're able to do that. There was a Spanish broadcast for this competition as well, and there was a guy over there named Albert, who's very good CrossFitter in his own regard. He actually learned how to do it with one arm originally, maybe in the past. I'm not sure how long ago. And when we were all practicing, he was doing it with one arm, and he was able to string together more with one arm than any of us were able to get with 2 arms. So I
Mhm.
didn't try it that much with one arm because I was basically just attempting to understand how difficult it would be for an athlete to adapt to this new implement or this new variation of a double under if they hadn't taken the opportunity to practice or hadn't been able to get their hands on one in the 3 weeks since it was announced until the event took place.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, there's some footage that I have that I could potentially put out there to see. I'm sure there's some people that would think it was quite entertaining. The people that like to laugh at other people's expenses. But, it was challenging. I was sweating a lot trying to figure it out. I did notice some improvement, and I feel like if you gave me a week and I practiced 30 minutes a day, I would be able to do 50 in a row, probably. I
Yeah.
feel like that's probably the case. The interesting thing when you watched elite athletes do this was the variety of different ways in which they did it. So the people who were teaching me were telling me that you wanted to have, the elbows high and the T-Rex arms, and
Mhm.
that you couldn't like throw your hands up and down. You needed to get momentum here in that position. There were a lot of athletes, as you said, that went to an underhand grip, and then there
Mhm.
were a variety of different widths that the athletes were choosing. And one athlete, I can't remember who it was, even had their hands way down, like in front of their pelvis, and were doing
Mhm.
them down there. The interesting thing about these ropes was they had 3 sizes: a large, a medium, and a small. Doing it up here, the small jump rope was the best for me, and
Mhm.
I'm 5'10". So when I was
Mhm.
talking with Annika Greer, who's like 5'2" or 3, she's like, I need a smaller one. Like, so if you're doing this one and you're shorter than I am, then there wasn't really a rope that was appropriate for the size. But then I saw some people going lower, some people going wider, all of which would obviously kind of change the range of motion and the physics of it. So it was I think it was I as we've talked before, I'm happy they announced it early. I thought it was a fun and cool and different challenge, and this is a more of a big picture thing that we can talk about it. I know you and I were having a little exchange about the NorCal Classic programming. Like,
Mhm.
not every competition and not every test within every competition has to be the same and has to have the same purpose and intent. The one question that I had, and Elliot Simmons was kind of speculating about this as well, is like, should it have been paired with the lifting test? And when we get to the
Mhm.
women's leaderboard, I'll give you an example of how that kind of staggers the leaderboard a little bit or influences the leaderboard a little bit because generally speaking in a competition like this that has 7 tests, you're going to go heavy at some point, and you might go
Sure.
heavy more than once, but in a variety of different ways. So for example, the final, the Iberus, their Spanish version of the pig, that's a heavy implement for sure. um, but the heavy test was obviously the 1 rep max clean and jerk. But if you couldn't do the skill that was new, then you didn't have a chance to show how strong you were, and therefore
Mhm.
didn't have that element of fitness being represented on your score across the totality of the competition.
Mm. Gotcha. That makes sense. That was going to be my next question in terms of pairing those two together and how it would affect. But I guess what you
Now,
said.
here's a counterexample to that. Let's say that you put it in the workout with the let's just say you put it in the workout with instead of the Iberus. So you have legless rope climbs and this jump rope, and you're amazing at legless rope climbs. And let's say that in that situation, it might have been, 3 rounds of 3 legless rope climbs and 25 jump ropes, and maybe a run on the air run or something like that. Well, now, instead of not getting a chance to show your proficiency with a barbell, if that's what you have it, because you didn't have the skill, you don't get your chance to show the proficiency with, upper body pulling, high level upper body pulling skill that you might be really good at. So no matter where you put it, someone's probably going to pay the price. There'll probably be an athlete who's good at something that it's paired with that they're just, for whatever reason, not able to figure out the skill. But that's not that uncommon to CrossFit competitions in general. Look at this year's quarterfinals. And when we got back from Finland, I spoke about an athlete there, Mikko Liliorg from Estonia, who had great scores across the board at quarterfinals, minus the crossover double under or single under. And now you might think, well, an elite level athlete should be able to do a crossover single under. But actually, we saw several elite other athletes that, for whatever reason, that coordination or range of motion or whatever it was, movement pattern, was difficult for them to learn within a 24-hour period of time, which is how, basically how much time they had to figure that out and then log a score and move on. So it's, it can happen. We saw at the games in the speed skill medley, there were like 6 new implements in that one test at the games 2 years ago. And for several athletes, it was their worst score of the weekend because of a skill that they either didn't execute on or hadn't been practicing that now they probably can do quite well.
We'll talk about the NorCal, but I also noticed the NorCal did something similar where they had a lifting. It was a snatch event, and the buy-in was double unders. I think 50 double unders. What's your thoughts about having, like, you have a max lift event, but then having a buy-ins like that? I mean, would you much rather just see the max lift, or or do you mind, or do you want that? I guess those couplets or the buy-in.
Zalos Games qualifier, or was it the main event that had the double under and the snatch last year? Maybe it was the main event. Anyway, I tested. I remember testing that one at the gym back in Chicago, and I think I don't know if I didn't PR with the snatch there, but I did hit I got to the point where I attempted what would have been a PR snatch at the time. And so, sometimes having a skill paired with a lift can yield actually quite a successful output in terms of competition. Now, there's a difference between having it paired with a skill that is expected, known, and practiced regularly, and having it paired with a skill that's never been seen before for that division of competitor. So that's where I think there's a little bit of conversation to be had. But I kind of there's been many workouts I've done over the years where I'll do 1,800, 600, 400, 200 meter row, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 squat snatch at progressively heavier loads. And I'll get up to a fairly high percentage of my 1 rep max snatch. Just because heart rate's up, body's loose, feeling good. And you can contrast that with these strength specific tests that we often see in competition where you warm up, but then you go out there and you have to wait 4 minutes before you do anything. And then you have to hit look at this year's games. You had 2 attempts at something with probably 10 minutes before you did anything. And then you have to go for 1 and then a 4-minute break. And then you go for 1 more and that's it. So, it depends what the intent is. That test I just referenced from the games, the intent is, okay, let's see how well they can execute with basically no, they've done a bunch of tests, but basically there's no fatigue, there's no high heart rate, there's no, it's a really unusual, it's kind of more like an Olympic lifting meet, I guess, except an Olympic lifting meet, I don't know how much time passes from when you last can do a snatch in the back before you go on the platform and lift. I don't think it's as long as it is at the games.
Yeah, they don't corral athletes like they do there.
So that to me is a weird environment. That's a weird way to test strength. I want to see, so I prefer kind of the building up of where you have an opportunity to get warm. And I kind of like the idea of having something that's relatively low skill or easy to do, but it gets the heart rate up a little bit and the blood flow a little bit, the body loose, and then you go to a barbell and have a chance to execute. So you're not dramatically fatigued, you're almost priming for the body to do something.
Yeah, like a warm up, and also the adrenaline and getting the heart rate up, like you said. Brian asked here, maybe you can provide some. Did Travis calculate the lift wrong? Obviously, things are done in kilos versus pounds. Do you have any insight in that?
I didn't ask him about that. I did love the question that Bella asked him. I think it was actually after the final test of the weekend. She asked him 3 questions. The last question she asked was, "What did you learn this week?" And he goes, "Oh, dang, that's a good question." Like he actually said that. And then I was,
Mhm.
and a lot of times that an athlete is caught off guard by a question like that, they might not have a great answer. And his response was, "Every second matters, every kilo matters." And so it
Mhm.
clearly was something that he was thinking about. I'm not I am not sure if he misloaded his barbell or if he intended to have 154 on there or not. But I also am quite sure that he didn't know that it would cost that 1 kilo would cost him 24 points.
Yeah, yeah, because he only finished 10 points behind Koski, so that yeah, yeah,
Well, and Koski, I mean, he 142 you see listed there. That was his
yeah,
first lift. He missed 149, and then he went up to 151 and also missed that. And he told me, he's like, those are weights I hit. Like I never miss those
mhm,
weights. But that's the nature
mhm,
of the competition, is like
yeah,
you have to do it when it counts. And he wasn't able to do it. He took total ownership of that. And he's like, I just need to get better in that regard. But yeah, there are, if you just look at the 20 points, there's not that many. He only got, what did he get there?
46
46
points.
points. So
Yeah,
you slide down to a guy who had won, something that was 150, 151 neighborhood, and
yeah,
suddenly maybe Diona's the champion in Madrid. I mean, like I mentioned, he beat
yeah,
Lazar on 5 of the 7 tests that they did. So yeah, the points gaps are what they are, but if you reflect on the weekend, you look, the margins for error were small and resulted in big day changes in position and also payday.
yeah, yeah. We talked about the lift. We also we briefly hit on the run. It was a 5K run outside. I heard it was a really hilly or very hilly course.
Yep.
But Lazar comes back. He said less than 12 hours and wins that event, which not too surprising. But you never know in a field like that. There could be a specialist, someone that's just really good at running. But Lazar, and then right after, not too far behind him, 12 seconds behind him, was Travis. So, um,
Yeah, and the specialists in the run were actually on the women's side, where a couple athletes who had, well, at least one athlete, the Lindsay Martin, the winner of the run on the
mhm,
women's side, had a great performance there relative to the rest of her event. She had a good weekend overall. But and
yeah,
then you see a couple guys that were not first or second, but OJ Keene,
mhm,
Mark Carmona, Santandru, having some of their best performances of the weekend on the run.
yeah, yeah. I when I watched the Burpee Maker, I really liked the Burpee Maker. I thought that was a really cool workout. It
Okay,
was
go do it tomorrow.
I mean, I said I liked it. I didn't say this guy wanted to do it, you know? No, it looked brutal, and, especially on the women's
That's
side.
so that is, and I actually think that the execution, the way that that one played out, is what
Yeah,
is intended to happen when you do this interval style test. In the
yes.
very first heat of women, they went first. I said, we're going to see most of the athletes finish, but
Mhm.
there's a chance. I said, there's a chance
Yeah.
someone finishes in 3 rounds. The
Mhm.
best athletes will finish in 4, most will finish in 5, and a few will get capped with a couple reps to go.
Yeah.
That's the ideal circumstance, and that's exactly how it played out. You see the only 2 athletes, male or female, that were able to finish it in 3 rounds, Travis Mayer and Yonakoski. Then,
Mhm.
and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's quite a few men that were able to finish it in the
In
10
the
to
10
11
minute,
minute range. Most of them finished it in the final interval.
yeah. Um, yeah, and that came down to execution too, because I mean,
Look at this. Look from Luka Vuniak down just the next 5 guys or 6 guys. One, two,
and,
three, four,
yeah.
five. 5 guys, 5 seconds.
Mhm.
That's 12 points. And we talked, the margins, the execution. There were a couple things about this particular test that I thought were a little strange.
Mhm.
And 2 things in particular was that you were able to roll your barbell forward during the rest intervals, but you were
Mhm.
not able to cross the finish line during the rest intervals, which would be the next progression.
Yeah.
That came up for Sylvia Garcia and more or less cost her a spot on the podium.
Mhm.
Now, it was briefed that way. It was briefed that way, and the head judge made the call, and the head judge got it right per the way it was briefed. I would have had one or the other. I would have said, if
Mhm.
you're going to allow him to move the bar, then you should allow him to cross the finish line. And
Yeah.
typically, by the way, at competitions in the past, that's what we've seen. If you're not going to let them cross the finish line after finishing, if they finish the last rep, I didn't like that they were allowed to move the bar. The rest should have been the rest, because moving the bar was part of the test, and it
Mhm.
takes time. Travis Mayer totally exploited the competition's rule on that. He would roll it into the next section by a centimeter, of an inch, and just
Mm-hmm.
start doing burpees, and his judge was allowing it. And then during the rest interval, he'd roll it the rest of the way. So
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, Jonakowski was rolling it every time to the halfway mark and not doing anything extra with the rest intervals. And those 4 seconds were the difference in those points there.
Oh wow. Yeah, because we'll talk when we get jump to the women when we talk about Sylvia because she finished the burpees, but she had to go all the way back. She had to row, do some thrusters, and then cross the finish line. So
And it cost her somewhere around 20 points, I would say.
yes, yes, it definitely did. And it was like, what were you truly testing there? Then I mean, I thought the
Well,
it's
this is the big overarching thing is whatever you brief is what you need to go by.
yeah,
Even if you think, shoot, we briefed that. I wish we had briefed that some other way. It doesn't matter. If you
yeah,
briefed that way, you have to play it out that way. We had this conversation at the Iron Games. We were talking
hmm,
about the final. There were 8 women out of 10 in the women's elite that had the tie, same score in terms of reps on the final. Well, what's the tiebreaker? Well, we
hmm,
went back and checked. We found out what it was, and we applied that. But if there hadn't been a tiebreaker, then unfortunately they all would have just tied for second or whatever it was. But in this case, they did what they had briefed, and that was the right thing to do. But it's a good, if you're a competition organizer, if you're an event programmer, like these little things matter. The margins matter. These guys are so good. So you have to think about those scenarios. And in this case, it was unfortunate for Sylvia, but the judging team got it right
yeah. Um,
on the floor.
let's kind of finish up the men here. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of these guys in Dubai. Actually, probably like yeah, quite a few of these athletes. But were there any other athletes that either had some notable performances, either good or bad, that you want to kind of highlight, or any events that you want to highlight from the men's side?
Well, I would say, Lazar, Yona, Travis, Luca, Alex Katulis, Yorgos Karavis, like we know a lot about those guys.
Yes.
Colin Bossard, for me, this was a great affirmation of what we saw from semifinals out of him.
Hmm.
He was one spot away from making the games there. He was basically, along with those top 4 guys, he was the only other male athlete who was regularly in podium contention. And you see his lifting, and then if you go all the way to the bottom, the
Yeah.
Iberus was probably his next worst finish. So this is just top end strength is his weakness relative to the field. Capacity, gymnastics is basically elite.
Mm,
He's not the biggest guy. Like standing next to him, I feel like I feel like he's about the same size as me. He probably weighs 10 or 15 pounds more than me, but he's a young guy and he has a huge base that's like really really good in terms of gymnastics and capacity. So if he's able to get a little bit stronger over the next 2 years, I think he has the pedigree of a games athlete. And
yeah.
I was not necessarily ready to say that after semifinal because it could just be a great slate of tests for him. But now that I've seen him do this against, all those guys that ahead of him have made the games, Yorgos Kervis has made it twice. Um, I think he could. I think he could be, and that's why I posted even on the story. I said this is a guy who
Hmm.
is worth taking note of. Martin Cuervo, similar. I wrote about him actually after semifinals this year as an athlete that got almost no airtime or really highlights during the semifinals. I mean, it's the European Championships. There's so many good athletes there, but he was maybe 5 spots out of the semis, and it's just
Hmm.
kind of like lurking around. And you look here, pretty consistent. Again, it's the
Yeah.
lifting that's holding him back relative to everything else, and then the Iberus there as well, I guess.
Hmm.
I was trying to think what happened to him on that. It was so chaotic in the last heat, but and the focus was obviously on the top guys then. But pretty consistent performance. I think he's on the up as well. So got to definitely be aware of in Europe. Ben Fowler, I thought had a great weekend. First of all, he made the trip from New Zealand, and
Hmm.
that's a huge, huge trip. Well, everyone else, I think, in the top uh, 10 other than Travis Mayer coming is from Europe. So the acclimation to being there in terms of travel, time zone, whatever is drastically less. And, Ben Fowler is a guy who missed this. He missed Oceania this year, uh, coming back from an injury. And I think it's, we'll have to see which guys in Oceania actually decide to compete next year individually and
Hmm.
how many spots they end up having available. But if they somehow end up with 4 spots, I think Ben Fowler does have a chance to make the games next year.
Yeah. Well, all three of those athletes you talked about, they're all on a relatively young side too. Actually, I think Cuervo. Not sure how old he is.
I think he's
I
in the
know.
mid-20s, like
I
24 or
know.
5.
Yeah, I know. Bosshard's 22. Ben, I believe, is probably around 24. Cuervo's 24. Bosshard's 22. Obviously, and Ben Fowler, I believe he's like 22, maybe right
I want to
around.
say 23 and his brother's 21 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I always get those two mixed up in terms of who's the older one. Um, 22. Ben Fowler's 22. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, for them to come to being that age and then come to a competition like this, that's I think hopefully all three of them got the data they needed, or and
And
this
look, if you scroll down and just look at 10 through 20 on here, like all
Mhm.
of these guys are semifinal guys. Felix
Yes.
Rader, Kevin Jors, Carlos Coloma,
Mhm.
Simon Montilla. Simon Montilla is going to be in Dubai. I talked to him actually.
Oh, good.
He had to leave Dubai last year for a personal reason, so he was unable to
Mhm.
compete. So it was great that he gets an invite and gets to go back there. Helsinghoff, Marenchenko. Actually, I ran into Joshua Hong,
Mhm.
um, another young
Korea.
guy. He lives in the U.S., but he's
Oh,
representing South Korea on the
yeah.
leaderboard there. And he asked me, and he's like, I have a million questions for you, Brian, but I just want to ask you, what do I need to improve on? Because after the whole competition, and I was like, send me a DM, and I will get back to you. But right now, I need to breathe for a second. But
Yeah.
if you look here at some of his results, it's basically the Saturday, the running and the burpee maker, which are,
Mhm.
in my opinion, just straight capacity stuff.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
e-Bruce, that's a new implement with
Mhm.
a high demand skill on the legless rope climb. I'm not necessarily as concerned as that. So if Josh Hong is listening, I would just say, you know, just capacity work. But dude, this is a really good field. This is a pretty good
Mhm.
result. I think he got invited 5 days before the competition started. He said, and
Really, and jumped on a plane from New York. Hmm.
so I was, a lot of impressive athletes out there. Obviously, not everyone can finish inside the top 10, but that next 10 to 15 guys also had several hot spots, high points throughout the weekend.
And these are great data points, especially for you for your 100 preseason, your power rankings. So, for
Oh,
athletes like
absolutely.
exactly, because these are usually the question marks. We pretty much know who these athletes, the U.S. athletes, North American athletes are. But when you come to Europe, it's like the Colin Bosshards who you saw at semifinals. You're like, is this a fluke? And then you see something like this, and you're like, oh, maybe he is legit. So this is someone like him is definitely worthy of a top 100 spot, if not top 75.
We will see. I think
We
sometime
shall.
in I think maybe October.
October it is. Yeah, maybe before I think that's smart before Rogue, because we have all that. Yeah,
I think
we
I'll do it
know.
before Rogue, and then I'll let Rogue, Down Under, Wadapalooza, Fittest
Mhm.
Experience. I'll let all those happen. Then we'll do another one probably before the Open.
Yeah. Switching over to the women. Yeah, no surprise here. Karen, Freyova just crushed it. No surprise at all.
No
Um,
surprise in terms of the result, but
yes.
her performance from an execution standpoint to me was more mature and calculated,
Yes.
disciplined than I've
Uh-huh.
seen previously.
Yes.
I know I think it's known now that she's working with Facundo as her coach,
Mhm.
and perhaps that has something to do with it. But also, she's becoming a more seasoned, a competitor. She's got a
Mhm.
couple of games under her belts. She's been competing in big competitions in Europe,
Yeah.
French Throwdowns, Madrid's, Dubai's
Mhm.
for years now. So there's a certain amount of experience on the training side that also probably contributes to that. So while yes, we were expecting her to win, yes, we're not surprised that she won by a considerable margin given the rest of the field. The
One.
if you watched the way that she moved on the floor, executed certain things, some of the gymnastics in particular that she was able to
Mhm.
manage. Go back up to the first test there, the strict handstand push-ups. She's, I wouldn't say she's one of the best in the field at them, but the totality of what that test was, she was able to make it work and still take a second place.
Mhm.
So I was really impressed with the way that she went about performing these tests, more so than the fact that she won the competition, which we were expecting.
Yeah, I was really impressed with her in the burpee maker. Obviously, part of the burpee maker was the ski, and when it comes to machines, she might be the best woman in the field. I mean, when it comes to machines, specifically the row and the ski. But she just looked her burpee, just
That
her
was the row.
timing.
It was the rower, not the ski.
Oh, okay. Well, the burpee maker had a ski in it, right? No, no, you're
It
right. That
was
had a
row,
row. The
thruster,
wrap, the wrap air up had the ski, but I was also more impressed with that too because that actually had ring muscle ups. It wasn't a high number; it was 9 per round, right? For 9 yeah, 9 ring muscle ups. But yeah, the burpee maker, I was really impressed with just her pacing on the burpees, and her and Annika were just going back to back. I mean, she's a bigger athlete. She's a longer athlete. Burpees typically don't, when you're a taller athlete, burpees aren't really one of
and
your
for a light barbell, it's an extra range of motion on the thruster. So,
Mhm.
uh, that's probably the win that I would say was least expected for the
Yeah,
facilito with the chest bars on the snatch. The snatch played very heavily, so I expected that
yeah,
lifting test. I expected
mhm,
that burpee and the final. The burpee maker was the one that yeah, I agree with you. That was the most
yeah,
impressive event win for me for her.
yeah. I definitely was impressed by that. She just seemed like and she didn't seem bothered by it. She didn't seem like she was rushed or anything. Speaking of the burpee maker and the person that she was going against was Annika Greer. Annika, I mean, yeah, she was 100 points behind Freyova, but she was in second place, well above everyone else. I mean, she was definitely the second best athlete in the women's field at
Look
the
at
time.
click on her results and look at her results on everything other than the run.
Yeah, 7, 2, 2, 29, 3, 1, 3. Yeah.
So you think it was she actually she was she was distraught after the run.
Hmm.
But when she had a chance to sit down and think about it, she said, "I ran well. Like that was a good running pace for me, given the distance and the course." She's like, "There's just a lot of good runners out there."
Yeah.
So she,
26 minutes.
in the
26 minute
moment,
ride.
she was bummed about it, but afterwards, she was like, "I think I executed that well. I think my running is improving,
Hmm.
and look at the fitness besides the run. It was quite impressive." And this is, I mean, look, she was probably as close as anyone who didn't make the games this year to making the games.
Hmm.
And I think that it's only a matter of time for Annika.
Yeah. But I think with Annika, with such a glaring hole, weakness in terms of running. Um, you are right. She is a more improved runner. I noticed that semifinals, she actually runs like a runner. She has the form now. Now she just needs to get better at running. But she has the form because, you know,
And that's a great point, Patrick. That
mhm,
a lot of people, even regular people, going to the gym and doing an hour of CrossFit, even for coaches that are coaching in a CrossFit affiliate, there's different styles of coaching and programming. But
mhm,
if you're coaching at the gym and you just say to your athletes, "All right, let's do a 400-meter run warm up,"
mhm,
that's a lot of reps of running. That's an opportunity to work on something.
yes.
Give them a pointer. Give them something to think about. Spend an extra 10 seconds and say, "Hey, when you guys go out for your run today, think about your breathing cadence. Think
Mhm,
about your strike, where your foot is striking. Where's your torso relative to the momentum that you're getting?" Give them a
yeah,
cue and give them a chance to work on that, because you would never just say, "All right, 1 rep max snatch, go."
yeah.
You
You would give
always
them
warm
time.
up to snatch. You always drill the movement patterns. So
Hmm.
that can apply to rowing. Skiing is an interesting one. I
Hmm.
haven't seen a uniform application of skiing technique in the same way that I have seen rowing, where it seems to be
Yeah.
fairly understood that there are some specific checkpoints. Um, but at least for running and rowing, and actually, Taylor Self just put out on a self-made training program for Echo Bike some points
Mm,
of performance that you can coach people on, or that you
yeah.
can, if you're training on your own, that you can find some resources and focus on. If you're doing 10 minutes on an Echo Bike, even if it's a warm up, that's an opportunity for you to drill in efficient movements patterns.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've just pulled a rower out and
And just go.
went to the screen that shows the graph of power versus time, and I've
Hmm.
just tried to create a parabola.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just because this is an efficient reflection of a good rowing stroke, just do
Hmm.
that for 10 minutes. If you go for a run, it's hard to film yourself running or whatever, but if you are actually trying to compete, have a coach come with you, or a friend that's riding a bike alongside you and is saying, "Hey, remember, strike with the forefoot, pull with the hamstring, have that slight forward lean, whatever it is. Breathe every third step, fourth step.
Yep. No,
Anyway,
it's
there's a little tangent, but I think probably an
yeah.
important thing for both competitive athletes and the everyday CrossFitter.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt that Annika is going to become a better runner, and it's for her to identify that is also, um, it shows a lot of her maturity because she's still just 20 years old, and I think
That's crazy.
I know we don't realize that. It just seems like she's been like you know,
And I love that post she put today. I think it was like first big check for this big nerd. Like
yep,
it's a cool accomplishment, and she's having fun, and
yeah,
and she did. She was I probably spent more time talking to her this weekend than I have throughout the entire time of her career or mine
mhm,
in the sport, and it was great to talk to her, just learn a little bit about her, see her personality. So I think it was a great weekend for Annika, and like I said, I think she's trending in the right direction for sure.
yeah. And I think she's in an excellent spot being down there with learning from Noah. She's around this great environment. You saw it seemed like that whole environment that she was with in Madrid, where it was Sydney. They all got like a nice Airbnb together. Just looked like they had a good balance between competing and having fun and going out there and enjoying themselves. And I think
I
that's really
think that
important.
was Scott from Battle Cancer that was involved with some of that. And
Yeah.
man, what a good guy that guy is. He was
Oh
over there in
yeah.
Madrid as well. His wife was there. They had a team out there. If you don't know much about Battle Cancer, I think it's some organization I would actually like to learn some more about.
Yes.
But it seems like they're doing a lot of really good things.
Yeah. I know one of the things we talked about when we started Be Friendly is, trying to find an organization that we can kind of, latch onto and help out and also, just be a part of. And I think battle cancer is one of those things that I would like to find out some more information as well. Emily Lundberg, for many people probably don't know who she is, but I mean
Well, I'll
she
just say this, but we're going to talk about the two girls in fourth and fifth. But for
yes,
Emily Lundberg,
yeah.
this has been this season has been the culmination of years of training and trying to get
Hmm.
to the place she wants to be in this sport. Go back and watch the announcement of the North American East teams make
Hmm.
qualifying to the CrossFit Games. She was on Team OBA this year, and her team, all the athletes on her team, have more success and experience than she has up to that point. When they announce their name, and she just starts crying, and they all embrace her, like it was a massive moment in her career to finally
Hmm.
be able to call herself a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yes.
Here, this is kind of a funny story. I didn't know she got third. If you
Hmm.
listen to the last heat, I had said that because Garcia had about 20 points on Caratala.
Hmm.
Caratala was charging after not being able to do the double unders and therefore getting basically no points on the lifting test. Um, and I was like, it's most likely going to be one of these two Spanish women that takes a third spot on the podium. There are a few athletes, Lundberg, Helga Daughter, Blecker, I think were the three that were like
Hmm.
potentially, if everything went right, they could have made it onto the podium. But as I was watching it, I thought that Elena was doing well enough that if Sylvia dropped the ball, that Elena would be in the third spot. And so
Hmm.
I was trying to remember all the times of different heats. I said, I think Sylvia got somewhere around 17th or 18th, and Elena was somewhere around 7th or 8th, and that they're going to be within 5 points of each other. And then one of them is going to be on the podium. Well, they ended up tying on points. And I went down on the floor. It was the last two people that I spoke to before I went back up for the broadcast. The post show for the broadcast was Emily Lundberg and Simone Montilla.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that she'd won. And I get back up there, and Greg goes, "What is Emily Lundberg doing on the podium?" And I'm like, "Oh my god," because she and Annika tied for third. I actually didn't know who had gotten third or fourth. They were second and third in their heat. Holly
Hmm.
Tynan from a previous heat from Ireland was so incredible in that test, by the way. Um, so they tied on points there, and that was enough by 2 points to get her onto the podium. And so it's like I was a little like there were things about this weekend that didn't go Sylvia's way, that didn't go Elena's way. And by the way, Sylvia Garcia put a post up today that was not bitter in any sense. She was just grateful and happy and felt like she belonged there. And I thought it was a really taking the high road after something that she could have dwelt on and been upset about.
Yeah.
Um, but Emily Lundberg just stayed in the fight, and now she's got first CrossFit Games to her name on a team, top 10 at the games, backs it up with a podium in Madrid. So just awesome season so far for Emily Lundberg. I was really happy for her.
Yeah, and it's really cool for someone like that. She's 33 years old. She's been doing CrossFit for a while. For her to kind of hit that. I mean, this could do wonders for her confidence going into this coming season, especially. I mean, right now, all indications she's probably going to go individuals because OBA is not going to fill the team, at least a team that we know of. And I mean, who knows what something like this could do for an athlete like her, especially knowing that she can compete with some of the best.
Yeah, so great job for Emily, and congratulations to her. We've already talked about Sylvia a little bit,
Yeah.
and then you see that basically the 17th on Iberus. This is just coming down to the ability with the pig flips.
Mhm.
The 14th on the burpee maker is the one that's where the points that she ended up.
Yes.
I don't want to say giving away, but missing out on. And it was just one of those situations like she finished the burpees and went to the finish mat. So she's putting it on the judges to make the decision. And the head judge came over and and informed the judge and the athlete, you did not cross the finish line before time expired. That's what we had briefed. You have to go back and do the buy-in.
Mhm.
And it's like it's you cannot replicate the feeling of thinking you finished and
Mhm.
then having to go back
And
and
turn
do
it
an
back on.
intense row plus thrusters against a field of people who are still competing. They're still in the competition mode. And after being, competitive with them for those buy-in on all the other rounds, she wasn't. She barely got back to the rower in time.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to Aline Wirtz, but it's a slightly different situation there. She basically had done her burpees in the wrong segment, and so they didn't count, and there was whatever. Um, it was less impactful on the leaderboard, but it was also kind of an unfortunate whatever happened over there for Aline Wirtz. And the both of them were just way behind the field. And in the meantime, several other athletes and times from previous heats passed Sylvia by, and she just plummeted down the leaderboard. So that 14th should probably be more like relative to her capacity. It was probably more
Mhm.
like a 7th.
Yeah.
And like I said, the judges did get it right per the rules and the briefing. But for Elena Caratala, this is just a like we'll see her results here. I think she was top 11 on everything other than that one. Yeah.
31st at the lifting test was 31st.
Yeah. So there were 9 women and 5 men, which is exactly, I think, 20% of the athletes who competed in that test that never did a clean and jerk because they couldn't
Mhm.
do the double under. So she only got
Uh,
46 total through 3 attempts in 90-second
yeah.
windows.
Yeah.
And so that results in 31. I thought, and of course, the caveat I put on the lifting test was assuming that they can get to the barbell. I thought Elena Caratala probably would have had a top 5 finish there.
Mhm.
And if you look at the weights that would have been required to finish in the top 5, I think 100 kilos would have got it done. I think she can do that.
Yeah.
Um,
What were
and
the?
then she's easily, if that's the case, but she only got 18 points or something on that test. Let's just say she got 70 more points. Well, now she's battling with Annika Greer for the second spot overall.
Yeah. I mean, 100 kilos finished tied for fourth in the lifting. So yeah, she definitely lost some points in that.
But when everything is said and done, none of the athletes have control over any of those other circumstances. And Emily Lundberg had a really clean run, a really good
Mhm.
competition, and you can't take it away from her.
No, not at all. Um, and Sylvia, I think she just announced that also she got an invite to Dubai, so we'll have another opportunity to see her in action. I mean, she's someone that I think I first saw in action at Wadapalooza as an individual athlete this past year. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where she goes
Well,
from
and
here.
that's pretty cool. I know that the women's field is more difficult to fill than the men's field over there, or
Yep.
just in general, probably. There's more
Mhm.
competitive men, in CrossFit than women. Um, and these guys must have been watching, and they said, like I said, she was in the top 3 for most of the weekend. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that you can go out there and do something like that, and someone can take notice of it.
I'm gonna have to reach out to her and get a shirt that says STL CrossFit.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
We actually, I know
Did you
there's a
hear the shout out that Greg and I gave you on the broadcast?
no. What do you guys say?
You're gonna have to filter through it for 7 hours to find out.
Oh Jesus.
Or I'll tell you after the show.
Brian Thompson, and this is a little bit further on, but this is one of the things you brought up in your preview about Victoria Campos. And obviously, Campos, she didn't withdraw. She competed all, I mean, she was there the whole time. But the question was Victoria Campos hurt?
what I can say for sure is she was not competing at 100%,
Mhm.
but she did want to finish the competition out, and I thought that she had, given the circumstances, that I think she had a great attitude in
Mhm.
and didn't let it like bring her down. So that's not, as I was kind of speculating on the broadcast, that is not the Victoria Campos that I'm accustomed to seeing compete out there. Um, and yeah, she was definitely not at 100% this weekend, but she did want to finish the competition.
Yeah, and if anyone that's ever met Victoria, she's just like I just never seen her have a bad day. Even something like this, she's still smiling. She understands that she's thankful to be there to compete, and she's an ambassador of the sport. I really do. She's like the perfect ambassador because yeah, she may fly that Brazilian flag, but that girl's been all over the world. That girl's probably one of the most well traveled people in CrossFit that I know of. And
And I mean, and look, it's a little unfortunate. Like I was looking forward to seeing her compete and compete well
mhm,
against what I called, like a European semi-field from 2 years ago,
yeah,
kind of. And she wasn't in 100% this week, and so we didn't get to necessarily see that. But I commend her for her, resiliency to sticking it out and her attitude in addition to that. So
any other women in the that stood out? Any moments, anything like that that you want to discuss? I mean, a highlight was Bleecker. I thought I was really impressed by her. She's just an athlete who I think is she's on the come up, I guess to say.
yeah, let's look at her performances. She was the first name that I was gonna highlight here.
Mhm.
That strict handstand push-ups and the run were the downturns, and then the final. But she had what, 3 or 4 top 5 finishes there,
Yep.
and a few different tests. Generally strength is something that she excels with, but primarily in this case, it looks like it's the barbell.
Mhm.
Um, 3, 4, and 5 on 3 different tests. Yeah, Norcha Bleeker's been competing at the semifinal level, and she was in the hunt for a podium for a while. The final really hurt her there, but
Yeah,
uh,
the last day
yeah, I
was.
would say she's a good shout for someone that maybe was. I think she's still improving, and
Mhm.
will be interesting to see if she can kind of throw her name in the ring for a fringe game spot at some point um, out in Europe.
26 years old. She's one of the taller, leaner athletes. It looked like. So, um,
No, I actually got a chance to talk to her like really up close. I think she has a great build for the sport. I think when she
yes.
presents in person, I think she's probably 5'6" or 5'7". She doesn't,
Mhm.
it's a pretty good balanced physique. So yeah, I think she's got some potential going forward. It's nice to see, Mirka Henriksen's a team athlete generally. She had a pretty good weekend there. Aline Wirtz is, she had some ups and downs for sure. Great with certain gymnastics, great on the run. See here, fourth on the run, third on the opening test, sixth on the handstand. So the handstand push-ups, the handstand walking, the running. So she's got some really high points, and
Mhm.
those are like handstand walk obstacle, um, strict handstand push-ups. That's a long test, skills test, running. Those are good things to have in your back pocket. The strength needs to come along. So maybe just a little bit behind, but very similar to a Martin Cuervo or Colin Bossard in
Mhm.
terms of some of the skill set that Aline Wirtz has. So she's probably another one that I wouldn't have picked her to be in the top 10 here. And, she edges out Linda Kieschman, who's had a top 10 at a European semifinal before.
Yeah. 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 Let's finish up with the teams real quick. We'll go over that. Obviously, there's no. It was Los Niños. Obviously, they didn't win they weren't the top team. They didn't win any huge events on day one, but then they followed that up with just a bunch of first place after that. Um, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
How cool
very
was it?
good. I'll tell you this, no, like Noah and Chandler, they won over Madrid. Like,
Yes.
and
Was
Noah
there
will,
any
I
surprise?
did not see this, but a friend of mine saw this. And Noah spent an hour after he was supposed to leave, staying behind in a place to make sure that every person in the line got a chance to talk to him, take a picture, autograph, whatever they wanted. And then when he was leaving, another guy came out wearing Noah's Games jersey, and he took a couple minutes with him too. This was in the middle of competition. So he came over here, and you can't like I know there's been people that are like, this guy can't be that nice. So you can't be like that all the time. Like, with the way that he was from beginning to end of competition, and I mean in on and off the floor, you can't fake that. Like that's just who he
Yeah.
is, and he made a big impact. And it's really like, though athletes like him coming over and doing that stuff, not just the competing, like competing obviously, but everything else that he does there, like those are the things that make a difference for competitions like this in other countries. And you heard, and I don't know why he decided to come this year. Travis Mayer has been here a couple years now, and he said he loves it and he wants to come back. These guys, Fleck X, the team from Denmark, they are a very well traveled, seasoned, experienced team, very in the best way possible. I mean, this very highly critical of themselves, of their competitors, of competitions, of programming. They've come now 3 years in a row here, and they talked about that in the interview we did with them after the final test. And there's a reason that people are saying that. It's like, the, you know, no, like it's this is so it's nearly 3,000 people competing over 4 days of competition. And those athletes from the high level still feel like this competition is delivering in ways that I know top level athletes don't feel that other competitions always deliver in. So there's some stuff about the Madrid Championships that are reflected through the words of the athletes that are really impressive.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. I think what Noah has kind of uh he's kind of taken upon himself to kind of be like the new ambassador for CrossFit, kind of like what Rich used to be when Rich was competing. Rich had no problem going all around the world, not only just be, but he understood the role of being the ambassador for CrossFit. And I think I could definitely see Noah transitioning to maybe kind of that role towards the end of his career because he is what you see is what he is that nice. He is that nice guy. And the same with Chandler. Chandler's a little bit more quiet, but Chandler is one of those guys. If he came up, say, "Hey, I want to. Can I get a picture?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And it was really cool because Lena and Sydney, not many people know much about them, and looking at them, it was cool seeing their personality came out. And I think it was cool watching that Noah and Chandler kind of brought that out of them. And also Jesse, because obviously Jesse, she was on that Culture Bananas team. She was around them all the time, but just kind of seeing those athletes and how they reacted, being in that company.
Actually, I spoke with Lena and Sydney and Jesse yesterday night, probably right around this time, or maybe a
After
couple
party,
hours earlier. No, on the floor of the competition, so probably a couple hours earlier. And it was just organic conversation. Jesse Smith is like, "Damn it, Brian, you were right on your predictions. I really wanted to prove you wrong, but you're usually right." She just said that to me, and I've really not had much conversation with her before. And they
yeah.
were super fun to talk to, and it was cool. The last interview, we interviewed all the winners after the podium ceremony. If
Hmm.
you guys were watching and you were like, why are they not interviewing the winners after the final? It's like, well, we wanted to talk. First of all, this is cool. Josie Astula did an interview with a Spanish team, Spanish male and Spanish female athlete after the final. Because I mean, we still have the primarily Spanish crowd on site there. We did have a Spanish broadcast off also, so we wanted to give some love. Studio CrossFit, Martin Cuervo and Elena Caratalic, and a chance to talk to them. The night before, we talked to Fabian Benito and Paulo Cazales. They got the crowd all riled up. So we didn't always take the winners. We wanted to spread the love a little bit, get some different
Hmm.
perspectives and feels. But we did interview all the winners, Lazar, Karen, and Los Ninos, after the final, the podium ceremony last night. So if you missed that and you were wanting to see some of the stuff that they had to say, scroll through the ceremony. It's like 30 minutes long because they do all the divisions, and you can see those interviews with Bella Martin down on the floor right at the end of the broadcast on the YouTube. And Noah was like, Bella, ask Sydney something. They asked Sydney a question earlier in the competition, and she was pretty nervous, and it kind of showed and whatever. But she kind of like leveled up or evolved or had gained some
Hmm.
confidence over the course of the weekend. And that's the Noah and Chandler are just these type of guys. Like if you're on their team, they are going to fully embrace you, support you, build you up, and make you feel like you belong out there. And Lena Richter's been becoming more and more well known after 3 straight podium finishes on the games. She's competing as an individual a couple of times last season. Um, and it was great to see, like you said, their personalities. And I think that it's just a credit to the overall camaraderie of, quite frankly, the whole team division. It seemed like
Yeah.
all these teams were having fun out there and they were interacting with each other, and it was pretty fun to watch.
You could definitely see like that definitely came across on the broadcast, and if you follow any of these athletes, you could definitely see that too. For someone like Jesse, who was just going there to support her husband and then kind of being thrown on a team last minute, she really melded with that team. But not only that, but it looked like she was like, you know, she became a part of training culture. You know, that Spanish team. But also, wait to kind of go back what you said about Sydney is you know, right before competition, Sydney put out a post regarding one of her scores for Rogue Invitational being basically invalidated, and she, you know, this could have been something where she was really down and could have went into this competition with just an attitude of just like, you know, could have went any way, but she she showed a lot of maturity for accepting her what she messed up on in terms of Rogue, but she even showed more maturity by concentrating on her team and going out there and having fun. And I think that was probably like I, if anything, I think I'm more of a bigger. I know you've been a Sydney fan forever. I think you might be the first person to identify Sydney as a CrossFit Games athlete back when we used to make predictions on that. But I'm even a bigger fan now, just seeing what she did this weekend and how she reacted as a professional CrossFit athlete.
And the training culture teams were great also, and they were fun to talk to. I mean, Aniol was the lone Spanish representative on this team, but I spent a lot of time talking to Guillaume Briand, and he's
Yeah.
been working on his English. It was so great to see a lot of international athletes will figure this out. They'll go to a
Mhm.
competition, and they're like, "You want to do an interview?" And they're like, "No, no, like, I'm not confident in my English." Guillaume was like has clearly been putting in the time, not just on the fitness. He looked great out there, but to
Yeah.
practice his English so that the opportunities that he does get to speak publicly, and that's how people can get to know him a little bit more around the world and not just in France. Claudia Gluck, same thing. Her English is getting better and better. Her fitness looks
Mhm.
like it's getting better and better. And she said it's been 2 years since she's competed in a team, and she had a blast doing it. And I think that it is, even if you are pursuing the games as an individual, there's a lot of value. We talk about this with the CrossFit Games all the time, is that you see people show up to the games, compete on a team, and then they can eventually parlay that into an individual qualification. But why not do that at an off-season competition too?
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
test some different implements. You're going to learn some different things from some different people. So I think it was a really fun team, that training culture team, and then the bananas team. You know, Fabi and Pablo are very, very much well loved in
Mhm.
in. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the running test now. Pablo, every time there's a running test, and he knows it too. He is a fighter, but man, they're always dragging him along, and it's just it's great. Um, and Verena Reimers, I'll see her next week up in Oslo, so hopefully get a chance. I did talk to her very briefly. Hopefully, I get to talk to her a little bit more when I'm up there. She's one of the, I think she's one of
Is
the
she a
top two
Tiger
women.
athlete?
She's up in Norway, yeah. So
Yeah.
her and Franzies Hogar. I think Verena was #1 and Franzi Hogar was #2 for German women this year.
Mhm.
I got to know Franzi over in Finland. She was also here competing on the Jollschranken team. So like to spend some time with Verena next week if I can. And yeah, man, it was a fun competition. I talked to that team from Fleck X. I mentioned they're super critical. They actually
Yeah. The
appealed
butcher's
their
awesome.
own score on the lifting test because they had been credited 10 extra kilos.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
they appealed it to go down 10 kilos.
Hmm.
That's pretty high
Interesting.
integrity.
Yeah, definitely.
And then
Any
Team
other?
Goad,
Yeah.
yeah, Team Goad is like Christoph Horvath,
Yeah.
Mia Hasketh, Julie Hugard, and Mike Nealman. It was kind of cool that Mike Nealman
Yeah.
competed on TTT CrossFit this year. He's got some games experience. He's a super awesome guy. Um, I was giving him a hard time about the lifting, but it's like, come on, it's Christoph Horvath. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
Exactly.
freaking savage with the
Oh,
barbell. I
yeah.
think that he had the heaviest lift of any male, female, or team athlete on the weekend. Mia Hesketh matched Karen Frey at 112 kilos. Um, so they put on a show on some tests, as you see. The running test and the first test of the weekend really kind of took them out of the podium contention, with other teams just being so good across the board. But some big
Mhm.
highlights from them. And then that Studio CrossFit team is an all Spanish team. They were quite impressive, and the WPAC Proven team from Mexico was quite good. I wonder,
Wonderful.
I
Wow.
wonder if that team will try to go as a team next year. Ana Martinez is very good
Yeah.
individually. She won the
Yes. Yes.
Fitland Challenge a couple of weeks ago. I think she could potentially make a semifinal as an individual if she wants to. But this team, they were very consistent. They were very fun. They were very good, and it looked like they get along really well. I actually saw them training at Be Fearless Madrid the day that I went to it before the competition. They were doing some practice there, so I wouldn't be surprised if they run it as a team for the game season too.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it was really cool when I saw that team from Mexico there, and then I looked at it and I saw Anna Martinez. I'm like, this could potentially be a team that I hope they do stay together. It'd be really cool to have a Mexican team at the games represented in somewhere somehow. Um,
I think I
I would-
embarrassed her in the Be Fearless Madrid. I went up to them.
mhm.
I was like, "You guys are from Mexico, right?" I was speaking Spanish to them. They're like, "Yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Is there someone here named Ana Martinez that was the Fitland Challenge champion?" Of course, I knew it was her,
Yeah.
so she couldn't communicate. Yeah, there was. That's right, Peter. There were some interesting exchanges between those guys. Um,
And
so maybe they should. I don't know.
for those that know, Peter was actually there. He got there, I think, day 2, and
He
was
showed
there
up.
for
Yeah,
the
he showed up.
country.
Yeah, I didn't know he was coming. I was so excited. I was like, "Are you actually here?" He's like, "Yeah, man." So I went and grabbed his butt and rubbed his leg and surprised him.
And of course,
And
Peter
that is
coming in.
true. That is true, and that
Yeah.
this is cool. That Ireland's veterans team. Louis McMaster's on that team. He competed in the games in the same division as J.R. Hall a couple years ago.
Mhm.
So those guys became buddies then. When I told J.R. I was competing here, he's like, "Damn, that's awesome, man." He was hoping Louis would come over to do the Crash Masters competition this year. But 4 Masters athletes signed up for the elite competition, went out there and competed. They did actually quite well on a few tests, and they did. We talked about it on the broadcast. We're like, that's not the right time. It was about like 2 minutes faster than their actual time, and they
Mhm.
also went back. I didn't actually know that they appealed it. I knew the score had been changed,
Mhm.
but that's great, and that's high level integrity from both those teams that we cited those examples for. So tons of credit for those teams for taking the
Good,
initiative to make sure they get it right.
good old Irish integrity. And then 4 Masters who made the team as well. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but yeah, great stuff you put out this weekend, Peter. It was awesome seeing you behind the scenes, and it was really cool. Um, Overall, your take on Madrid Championship? Anything you want to say before we close off and move on to some other things?
I mean, I had a great experience there. It was there's a lot really. It's a massive event in its totality. I didn't get a I was able to see the other stages of field, but I didn't get like a chance to go over there. It's a ton of volunteers, it's a ton of planning, it's a ton of preparation, organization. There were a lot of vendors, there were cool activations. And Madrid has big dreams. I did get a chance to speak to Alfonso Chamorro. He's like the head honcho, the big guy who's running the show over there. And he said, much in the same way that Brachio's did the week prior, that like we're really happy with what we're doing, but we have bigger dreams and bigger goals and planning to move forward. So I'm hopeful that I can continue to be involved and support them because I think it's a really important event for the Spanish CrossFit community, but also on the global scale is a competition that has a chance to make a massive impact. Like we said, I don't know, an hour ago, there was representatives from all over the world there, and I think that especially with athletes like Travis Mayer and Noah Olson speaking so highly of it and coming over there and having such a good experience, that there's the potential to see even more growth and opportunity for the Madrid Championships in the coming years.
So it wasn't obviously there wasn't the only competition going on. We decided to do a little bit of preview. Freaking broke out the writing skills.
You did, yeah.
First time in I think it's like 9 months since I wrote anything. It was actually pretty fun, but then it kind of caught my eye.
I
I
didn't
shared.
tell you how happy it made me that you wanted to write something.
Well, I didn't. It's not that I wanted to write something. It was more like I don't know. I just felt like as I was seeing the list of athletes that were competing in it, I'm like, no one's talking about this. No other media was covering it. So I felt almost compelled. You know how I am. I feel compelled that
Well, and
we should.
that's a good point right there. Is like now we've seen through this first part of the season that you have a competition like the Iron Games. Iron Games no one ever talked about before. Then they did a
Mhm.
broadcast this year.
Yeah.
Suddenly a little bit different. Pit Team Throwdown. If you were there, you knew it was special and great. But if you're never there, you would never know. You could never see it. And now Northern California Classic. I mean, this is a legitimate prize purse. This is a long-standing competition. These are former games athletes that are programming this thing. It's really great for that community. And now you're starting to get some athletes travel around the country to come and compete there. But you can't watch it, and so I'm hopeful that this becomes one of the next competitions that
Hmm.
There is an opportunity to watch if you're not there. And I've talked about this with regards to disc golf before. Like, you can have a premier competition in Europe and a premier competition in the States, and they can coexist in the same weekend. The time zones are different enough, the markets are a little bit different, and it can definitely happen. So I don't know what that necessarily looks like, but absolutely the caliber of athlete programming competition here is certainly worthy of talking about.
I before we move on, that I have some insight on this. Why did they allow Leah Storen? I assume they meant Leah Storen do the wrap air up. Um,
I like that
Leah
nickname for her though.
Leah Storm, yeah. I mean, um, I kind of I help out with Leah Storm in terms of athlete management. So I was there talking to her. She actually had knee surgery, had to get her knee redid. So she's slowly but surely trying to come back, and it happened right before semifinals. So that's why she didn't compete at semifinals. But she was hoping that she'd be healthy enough to compete here. She wasn't, unfortunately. The knee's just not strong enough. But she was going there to support her boyfriend, Victor Hellingshoff, and Andreas Solberg, who is one of her mentors there at Oslo. And um, yeah, and then she just asked, she just went to ask the organizers, like, hey, do you mind if I do this workout? It won't count 4 points. I just want to get out there. And I thought it was really cool that they said yes to this, because she's an athlete who's never competed at that type of that level on the floor, the competition floor. So they said, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and compete. And that's why they kept her on the leaderboard. They didn't withdraw her. So that way, she was there. So it was really cool. I was able to talk to her. She was really excited. I mean, she's 19 years old. She's really excited to be out there and compete at that level. She 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 still thinks that she would have did a lot better because she didn't go to the athlete briefing. She didn't know she had to move her chest piece, so she thought she could save about like 20 seconds off of that time. I think overall, if her score would have counted, it would have been sixth overall. I believe, but yeah, I just thought it was kind of cool.
I didn't like it.
Okay.
For her personally, that's
Yeah.
great. As a competition, I wouldn't have made that decision. I think that it's at least we knew what was going on, so we could communicate to the broadcast,
Yeah.
to anyone who's watching, why is this person out here who hasn't been out here all weekend? I think that there needs to be some kind of a threshold. Like, if you don't compete in all of the first day of competition, you're not competing in the competition, or whatever those kind of standards or rules are. It's difficult. It was difficult for the MCs to communicate to the people in the
Yeah.
stands what was going on necessarily. It takes away from some of the other athletes that are actually putting down times. We didn't know how to necessarily address it, so we're like, yeah, she's here, but Linnea Wang is actually the time to beat.
Yeah.
So I would say overall, I would not necessarily advise this for a competition
Mhm.
to make that kind of decision, but for her, I guess, great opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with what you say as well, Brian. It's like I could definitely see how that was tricky from a broadcast standpoint, and that probably needs to be communicated better to you, so that way you can actually give some insight on the broadcast about that. But all right, back to NorCal Classic. We talked about some of the names. There actually were some other names that kind of withdrew at last minute after we put up our predictions. Leo messaged us as soon as we put it up, and he decided to withdraw because he's just trying to get healthy for the upcoming season. Brian, you talked to him during semifinals. He was dealing with injuries. He's a guy who I thought would have did really well based on the programming they had at NorCal Classic. Withdrew, and then Sydney Wells is another notable name off the women's side who ended up withdrawing, who is someone that, again, that I think when we're predicting it, I predicted her to win as well, not knowing the programming, but seeing the programming, I thought she still probably would did really well. But at the end of the day, we still had a really good competition, some very unique programming, uh, which we'll discuss a little bit more. But Brittany Weiss, fresh off her winning with Invictus at the games, came in and won. And this is a really and for those who didn't know, the prize purse for the winners was 25K.
The prize
That's
per the winner in Madrid was 30,000 euros, so it's not that
yeah,
different.
yeah. But for obviously it's nothing compared to the level of competition here. Wasn't anywhere close to Madrid. Um, and you had less athletes. It paid out, I think, top 10 athletes, which is pretty cool to see. It wasn't huge payouts. There's a big drop from first to second. I think first was 25 grand, and then it dropped to like 5,000 for second, and then 1,000 for third. But that's essentially the prize purse for NorCal, and why it kind of attracted some names. even names last minute. So we'll start with the women since I was a lot more familiar with the athletes on the women's side.
Well, I don't know about that. At least the top two guys are going to be very well known. But yeah, I mean, look, you look at the points here. You see, Brittany Weiss seems like she's kind of running away with this thing. I don't I don't know how many total tests there were, maybe 7 or 8 opportunities to earn scores, but they got in the water 3 times, which is pretty unusual for any competition. They had lake swim is obviously swimming. They had a kayak event, daybreak paddle, and then the Go Ruck Adventure Race was started with a swim. Yeah, I've had to do a few other things as well, but yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a CrossFit competition that had 3 water events in it before. Or maybe there has been one. I just am not familiar with it. So, and Brittany did very well on those tests, and that more or less accounted for the difference on the leaderboard between her and Lauren Fisher.
Yeah. Lauren did have some mishaps that might have caused for that too.
I saw the post she made about the sandbag.
Yes, that, and then I think if you saw one of her other posts, I think it was the 800-meter sprint. She fell right at the beginning start line, she, like, belly flopped, and if you look at some of the pictures afterwards, she has this looks like road rash on her stomach. I think it might have been from that, but she recovered from it pretty quick, and I think she ended up. I forgot what she ended up getting in.
She's a good runner in general.
Yeah, she finished
so ninth
9th
place with a belly flop, and so less than a 2-minute test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and look, that's one of the, an 800-meter run, very similar to the 500-meter run at the games that we had a couple years ago. Like, the margins for error are small. A couple seconds can be massive on the point side of things. When I was looking through this earlier today at dinner, Andrea Nisler stood out to me. If you look at her scores here, and obviously she's one of the older athletes competing here. She was amazing on everything except for jumping and running short distance.
Yeah.
Which it's like, I don't want to say this is true of every athlete, but if the average age of the woman competing are 25 and you're 35, yeah, I'm not going to think you're going to do great on the max jumping and sprinting test. It's just not optimal 10 years later on in life. And
Andrea
like
will be
I said,
the first.
and those are the 2 least skilled. Like, the barrier to entry is super low. So I would say in terms of just fitness, in general fitness, she probably was the fittest person there. But as we mentioned whenever we go on this podcast, competitions are all designed for different reasons. They're designed with different things in mind. And I like the fact that different competitions have different feel. The fact that there were 3 water events there, I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. The elements in the water were different. Swimming is different than kayaking, and the buy-in of the swim. Maybe I didn't watch that test, obviously, but may not have been the critical factor. I don't know. And it's just it's different. We have competitions that sometimes proclaim that, well, my intent is not to find the fittest person. I'm showcasing the athletes. I'm showcasing my part of the world. I'm showcasing a new implement that we've been creating, working on, manufacturing, whatever. So I think you can look at the leaderboard and read into some of those details, but it looked fun, like a fun competition. It looked like everyone was having a blast out there from what I was able to see on Instagram.
Yeah. One thing I did bring up is, and I think we don't talk about too often when it comes to holding an event, was the uniqueness of the venue. Like, their venue is clearly outside. It's all the workouts are outside. They have a lake there. I think that's just where they program what we have around us, and they're gearing it towards that. And I kind of mentioned in that in the past, they've always had a swimming event. They've always had a trail run or something in that. So that kind of, if you're a type of athlete that's really good at something like that, these are type of competitions I would probably lean towards going if you're something like that. A perfect example is a name that keeps on popping up in my head, who is someone like Sarah Viets, who many people don't know. She's a regional semifinal type athlete, really, really good swimmer, endurance athlete. This would be a competition. She did do this competition in the past and done really well. But this and Iron Games are typical competitions that someone like her does really well in, because that's what that competition is known for. So, like you said, so when you look at a competition, it's not necessarily trying to find the fittest. There could be other alternatives to that. So,
and by the way, it's still testing fitness.
Yes,
It just might not be a perfectly balanced test in the way that
Yeah.
some people would want or expect it to always be. It might be skewed in a certain way, but we come to understand that that Rogue might lean towards a little different athlete than Dubai or Wadapalooza, and at the the next tier or two down of terms of competitions, that's okay too. You
Yeah.
might get a little different feel in Down Under than you get at French Throwdown, than you get at NorCal, than you get at Iron Games, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then look at Lauren. It's great seeing Lauren. It's going to be a really busy next couple months. I messaged Lauren. I'm like, wow, you're doing this. While she was here, she found out literally the day she showed up to check in is when she found out that she made Rogue. So October, she's doing Rogue. And then I asked her if she's still planning on going to Dubai. She's like, of course, 100% I'm going to Dubai. So it's going to be really, you're going to see a lot of Lauren Fisher, it looks like, because I can only imagine that she'll probably either do Wadapalooza in some way or somehow. And for those who think, Lauren Fisher's only 29 years old. So, and when it comes to
Yeah,
women,
she's just been doing this for like 10 years, though.
yes, exactly. But I
It's
mean,
like Yonakoski.
yep, just started at a young age. Same with I mean, Koski started when he was 19. I mean, Brooke Wells started when she was 19.
You know who's
So
going to have that same schedule? Well, actually, I don't know. But I was talking. It is cool. We're gonna talk. Are we gonna talk about Rogue?
who? Rogue? Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go. We'll
Okay.
talk about that real quick. But
All right. We'll put that on hold.
yeah, but you brought up Andrea. Andrea, someone I talked to like 3 years ago. She's like every year she picks a one competition she does it as an individual. Last year was Rogue. I think the year before I forgot what competition it was. It was Zelos, I think, or Zelos Games. But either way, she always picks one competition where she does as an individual, just to do it. We don't know what her season looks like next year, if she's done competing or not. But it's kind of cool seeing her out there. And then we have, of course, Caroline Prevost, a real good fan of ours, a friend of ours as well. It's cool seeing her out there. Um, she just missed making it to the games this year, out of the East, that tough East semifinal. Um, and then Hannah Hall, she's someone I think we should keep an eye on. She won this competition last year. Obviously, it wasn't against a field like this, but she's a part of that team division. I think she's 22, 23 years old. She was part of that. She competed at the games in 2018 as a teenager. She's someone I would probably keep an eye out on. And then, of course, Elizabeth Wishart, who I think finished second at the fittest experience last year behind Kelly Baker. She's also an athlete we probably should be keep an eye on this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, Carolyn Prevost more well known than Elizabeth Wishart, but
Yep.
I'm not necessarily. And Hannah Hall, obviously up and coming this year, she made a big name for herself with the snatch at semifinals. But
Yeah.
she was like lurking around the top 10 after 5 tests. You can't do that if you're only good at one thing. So clearly has some other skills as well. Yeah, definitely names to be aware of, and certainly names that we'll see again.
Yeah. Moving on to elite male, the Cowboy winning it, kind of going away too by 20 points over Tim Paulson
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: it's like he's retired, right?
from individual competition. I think he might be doing. I think.
But
I
what does
think he
that mean?
said.
We used to say, like, what does that mean that they're retired? Does that mean he's not training anymore? No, absolutely not. He's definitely training.
Yep. Yep.
And and by the way, he's just really good at certain things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so I am surprised he won. I was surprised he won. Then you kind of told me more about the programming, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, that is a lot of stuff that he's really good at.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have been surprised if he podiumed.
Yeah. Yeah. But in terms of Sean Sweeney, I think this year, I forgot what he was planning on competing as a Masters, perhaps, but he was testing some of the workouts, so he took himself out of the Masters. So I think he was intending on
Oh, that's
competing. But
absolutely shouldn't not. Yeah, you
yeah,
should definitely not be doing the testing for anything you're competing in.
it was something weird like that, where he had every intention of competing, but then he was also being asked to do some of the testing, so he took himself out of that. So, but it's all
And
either way.
look, that the chance to do some of the testing not a
Mhm.
lot of people get asked to do that. It's probably
Yeah.
less than get the chance to compete at the games. So having already competed at the games a few times, and certainly if he wants to compete as a masters athlete at the games, he'll have more opportunities.
Mhm.
So don't blame
Um,
him for doing the testing.
yeah, but but at the end of the day, you have a competition like this where you can come and win 25 grand. New father, that's a lot of diapers.
Yeah.
Um, Tim Paulson, fresh off that runner-up finish at the games with the East Nashville Proven team, finishing second. Malachi Bennett, I do not know much about him at all. I don't know if you do or not.
Dude, he's an interesting. He hasn't been competing for a while. I
Okay.
looked at when I saw that he finished third. I went and looked him up. I didn't know any of this stuff. But 2018, he was 16th place at the West Regional. That was the first
Yeah.
year that I went to
Okay.
regionals with Sevon. So I was there with Malachi. He's done the Open every year, but he after 2020 never did the 2021. He never did the quarterfinals again.
Hmm.
So there's good reason that we haven't heard from him. Is that he hasn't really done. Uh, this is the best result that I've seen that he's had in any competition ever. And but he's got obviously a high training age. If he was good enough to make the regionals and finish in the top half of it 6 years ago.
Yeah. 31 years old. So yeah. Hmm. And
You
then
got
right
my
below,
attention, Malachi Bennett. We'll see.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's beautiful. But you got two of the best Mexican CrossFitters in the world
mhm.
right behind him. And Luis Escamora, Rafael Sanson, totally different athletes, by the way,
Yeah.
and both
Very good.
finishing within 1 point of each other. And so, if
Mhm.
anyone wants to be critical of the program, you can say, wow, but at the end of the day, this guy who's an incredible weightlifter, and this guy who's I'm starting to think Rafael Sanson is one of the best upper body pulling athletes in the sport. He won the kayak, he won
Mhm.
the sled pull event at the games. Good runner. Um, very different athletes, very similar results. So that usually is indication of something positive with regards to the programming.
Yeah. And some of the regarding the programming, they had obviously you had the kayak, you had I think it was a handstand backwards over the ramp. I believe
Yeah, and
that was
that I think that was paired with some kind of upper body pulling and rowing, and Rafael Sanson also crushed that one. So
yeah.
just continuing the pattern that we've seen from him.
And they did a broad jump, and not just one but two. So it was back to back. So you jump once, then stop on a dime there, and then you jumped it again. But I think you had a limited amount of time, so you could do
It
that
was
multiple
two
times.
minutes.
Yes,
2 minutes, as many attempts as you want for a double broad jump. I don't know the rules. I don't know if you had to come to a full stop and then jump, or if you could like rebound into the second one. I hope it was the
Mhm.
rebound into the second one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how they necessarily measured it. Like, was it long jump rules like at the Olympics where like you can fall down but you can't fall backwards, or did you have to
Mhm.
stick the landing? But either way, the power that's required for that and the explosive nature of a broad jump, we've seen it at the games. It's been over a decade, but
Mm.
um, I don't know also if it was scored as high as a full event. Was it scored as a full event?
Yes.
Oh yeah, they're all worth one. They're all worth one, right? If you win. So,
Yeah.
um,
So Hans Kohlenberger, who is
how far
he's
did he jump? 248 inches?
yep.
How far is that?
I don't know further than 244. Who finished second? Uh, but I know Hans. He's a underdogs athlete. He's from that Northern California area. I think he's probably competed in every NorCal Classic since they started. But
20 feet 6 inches.
wow. Okay.
That's
So
not even as far as the Olympians do in one.
but it was on the women's side. Uh, Trish Zazimbo, but Caroline,
Zumbo.
yeah,
Yeah, Trisha Zumbo, Salty Hive CrossFit. She competed at the Iron Games on a team.
that's
Her
right.
husband owns Salty Hive CrossFit. He competed there on a team. I was actually pretty excited that I saw her on the field of women and that she finished in the top 10. So well done, Trish.
Prevo finished 199 inches, I
And
guess.
that's not that surprising. When I said
Yeah.
that, she is also a little bit of an older athlete, so maybe it's sort of relative to the field, I'm guessing. So maybe it's surprising in that regard. But Chase Ingram will tell you anytime he gets a chance, there's probably like her athleticism and the well-roundedness of her just expression of fitness and what she can do with her body is insane.
Yeah. If you don't get it, what a lot of people didn't realize, well, they probably do. If they know anything about the NorCal Classic, Sevon and Dave decided to drive up there on Sunday. Dave picked them up and they went to the actual event. Hiller was actually there all weekend as well, kind of shooting some behind the scenes. So,
And Bill,
yeah. Oh yeah, Bill Grundler was there as well. I mean,
by
Jason
the way,
Khalid.
we mentioned that it's programmed by some games athletes. That's specifically as Ben Alderman and Blair Morrison, old school
Yes.
games
Yeah.
athletes.
Old school, yeah. But so this is like the ultimate OG event, and you can kind of from what I heard, that was kind of how it was, where you showed up. It was like basically in a park, and people were just barbecuing and around the event. It was like really. Some people said it was very comparable to like 2009 CrossFit Games. So just people just showed up in their cars, put up a couple tents, watch some fitness, and um, but
Yeah, maybe next year they'll throw a couple cameras up there, and other people can watch too. It sounds like a very fun and cool event.
yeah. But Hiller was there, so we'll probably see a lot of what Hiller did. He's become such a really good person when it came editing skills and doing something behind the scenes. He's been done a really good job. But he interviewed Caroline and asked her, and she
Even
goes, "Yeah,
as good as Peter from Coffee Pods and Watts.
ooh, that's gonna that's I don't want to piss either one of those guys off, But
They're both are getting quite good. Yes.
yes, yeah, and we gotta give some love to Sevon for that, for kind of helping them and giving the opportunity to do that. But he interviewed Caroline, and she said, yeah, she thought she was going to do really good at that because of her background as a hockey player, and a lot of training to do is like being explosive, So, but overall, it looked like it was a good competition. Looked like it was fun. I know, I believe some people might be doing some other recaps on it or reviews of at least the programming. But I figured we should at least give some attention to it this weekend. And yeah, I think this is definitely a competition that's probably going to grow, especially having so many people there. And I mean, all you need is a big prize purse. If they can continue on practicing, promising prize purses like that, they're probably going to see a lot more elite athletes out there, and hopefully a broadcast, and hopefully we can cover it. So that was the weekend. Kind of quick look ahead. We brought up the Rogue, the Q, uh, the Q. Let me bring that up real quick, and we'll go over really quick, not to get too much into it. But
You might have
regardless,
eat a couple of grapes, do you?
oh, I don't mind at all. Does anyone else mind?
Audrey probably.
Audrey's gone. She had to go to class. So we'll start off with the men. Well, let's talk about the changes. We knew there were going to be some penalties. We knew there was going to be some invalidated scores. We just didn't know at what capacity. I will give credit to where credit's due. Rogue completely made that apparent, and there was some things, maybe some missteps, but they addressed them. One of the big things is when we talk about the women, is originally they announced this was the top 5, and then they changed the score, and Kyra Milligan, who was in 5th and thinking she was going to the Rogue Invitational, was later told that she actually finished 6th due to a tiebreaker. But then they also said they were going to take the top 6, and that's something they put out earlier, where they were taking a minimum of 5 athletes, and they did. They took 5, but now they're taking 6. So here's the finalized leaderboard for the men: Ricky Gerard, Victor Hoffer, Travis Mayer, Tudor Magda, Garrett Clark, Jason Hopper. A notable name that fell out of there was William Leahy. Well,
let's just say this. William Leahy might have all the potential in the world, but what is he notable for?
Not good things. Not good things.
He had a world record performance on a legless rope climb, 2.5-minute test a couple years ago. The people who support him believe in him tremendously. Everything I see from him suggests that he should be showing up to these competitions and doing well. Now, there might just be unfortunate circumstances, but the errors on the qualifiers are piling up to at an alarmingly inexcusable rate. I don't want to talk about William Leahy until he does something that's worth talking about.
I agree. So let's not talk about him then. Let's talk about the people that are going. And kind of like inversely, William Leahy is someone like Jason Hopper, who,
by the way, I have William Leahy ranked in the top 50 worldwide. It's not like I don't think this guy has potential, but get your shit together, man. Let's go.
Yeah. And those supporting him, help him out, help him out. So he can't do it alone. Jason Hopper, conversely, Hopper, if you watch any of his videos, he was being judged and coached by J.R. Howell.
And you're not getting away with any shit in J.R. Howell. And if you're showing up to Crash Crucible, be on your point.
Yeah.
Fitness will be rewarded, but you're not going to get away with anything.
Yeah. So seeing Jason, like, this was, you could tell that the intent was that he was going to hit all of this. And future reference for anyone doing Rogue, followed everything to a T. When it says weigh, measure everything,
Future reference, that should just be the standard. That's the
it
whole.
should be the
That's the
standard.
reason why Andrew Hiller exists.
Yeah, exactly. For those who don't like Andrew Hiller, if you do the stuff right, then you won't, he can go away. He'll find something else to do. But I mean, just do the right stuff. That's all he's asking for. That's what everyone's asking for. But yeah. So Hopper's going
And if
back
you
to
don't
Rogue.
like it, don't sign up for it. You don't have to sign up for it.
Hmm. It's all voluntary. He actually tied Tyler Christoffel. I don't know what the tiebreaker was exactly, but they said they're taking top six, and Jason Hopper is going now. So that's very. I mean, that's good for him. I mean, he
Dude,
didn't have the
I mean,
best games. Um,
Tyler Christoffel. This guy can't catch a break.
he
Like,
can't.
he is an incredible human being. He's very fit. And this, like, I just feel like I've seen this so many times. And his attitude is still tremendous. He put up a
Right.
great post about just the people supporting him and that he's so grateful to have those people in his life and in his corner. But he has missed the games and now Rogue by just one spot, 1 point, tiebreaker here and there. You can't count those number of times on one hand anymore, I don't think. I'll give him a hug when I see him. I'm planning to go to Cookville sometime in October.
Good. Garrett Clark is someone you talked about. I think when you talked about the athletes from semifinals that people didn't really know much about or to keep an eye on. So it's really cool to see Garrett
Well,
compete.
three straight semifinals. He had to withdraw from Granite Games.
Mhm.
I think it was Syndicate Crown. He placed 15th, but remember that was a very, that was like half of the difficulty of this year's semifinal where he placed 16th. So he's getting better and better, and I'm excited for him. I mean, this you look, it's a who's who.
Mhm.
Like everyone else on this page, you know who they are. And
Yeah,
I'm telling you, much like I did with Colin Bossard and Martin Cuervo, like this is a name that you should know. He is proven over a period of time in a variety of competitions that he can compete. Now, Rogue is the pinnacle. Like this is extremely difficult field of athletes he's going against. He might place in the bottom three. It doesn't mean that he's any worse for this is an awesome opportunity for him. He hasn't made the games yet to get a chance to go against a games field.
yeah. And he's still relatively young. I mean, workout 325 pounds on the overhead squat. It's impressive. Yeah. So that last name Clark, keep an eye on it. Tudor Magda, it's good to see him. I know he was one of those athletes that jumped up. He was kind of outside looking in, just like Jason Hopper. I'm really interested to see how he does in rogue programming. We know he's one of the stronger guys, if not in the men's field. I mean, he's up there.
I think he's the type of athlete at Rogue that's going to have like 2 top 5 finishes, three bottom 3 finishes, and a couple middle finishes. But you will probably see some awesome performances from him with the stuff that they usually roll out.
Yeah, he wasn't 100% in terms of at the semifinals. So, kind of seeing these results and knowing his team, I'm looking for a really good performance, a real good bounce back. Travis Mayer, who we just talked about, it's good to see Travis competing at Madrid. And which is really weird because last year, this is the kind of the competition where kind of, I wouldn't say a season spiraled out of control or downhill, but he was one of the major penalties from Rogue, and then he hurt his wrist and
Spiraled out of control.
yeah, I mean, spiral. I don't know. My apologies on Travis. Well, it just kind of went down.
Yeah.
Um, and then Victor Hoffer. When you think of Victor, you think of just world class gymnastics. But to see him, we talked about this I think last week. He stayed in second, no major penalties. So I'm really excited to see how he does in this programming and in live. Everyone gets the opportunity to see him.
Dude, this is a great. I mean, every guy here, 1 through 6, I think is a great addition to the field. Not that the guys who finished below wouldn't have been, but yeah, this is. I think this is shaping up to be the most competitive from 1 to 20 at Rogue that we've seen yet.
Yeah, because there's often times when we look at the top 20, we're like, oh, there's a name that kind of sticks out. Like, what are they doing here? Or what? That's
I'm pretty sure. I think so. Chandler Smith qualified through the qualifier last year. He took second place at Rogue.
Yep.
Manu Langonese, I think, was top for the women, either 12th or 13th, and then most
Mhm.
of the qualifiers were below, or all the rest were below that.
Mhm.
Look at these guys, and I say, if I told you right now, 3 of these guys finished in the top 10 and one of them made the podium at Rogue, you wouldn't say that that's crazy.
Nope, not at all. Because look who's at number one. A less than 100% Ricky Garard. He's still not, he still says that he could do better. I mean, but if you know Ricky, he'll always say that. But he put
I
out
mean,
a
you
post.
probably can. That
Yeah.
he had to. I know he had to do. They had snatches in this and overhead squat,
Hmm.
and that's like for someone who's coming back from a shoulder injury, like that's pretty demanding position, and he won it.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm trying to think about the worldwide ranks where I want to put him, and that's like the one hesitation I have of putting him out before Rogue, but I think I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, because I mean, all indication is that he's also still planning on competing at Dubai. So, I don't know. But that's the cool thing about your rankings. You can put them out. I mean, if you feel like you have to edit them and put them out again, I mean, we can always do that. So, but like you said, the field's going to be impressive. Justin Collar put up a great post about Ricky. Collar's just really happy about, he's got 4 of his underdog athletes competing. And look, I have to give some credit. Yes, I am a little biased when it comes to underdogs, but we aren't talking about underdogs enough when it came to the games, and how well of a job that him and Kiefer did. They had 2 athletes finish in the top 12. Bailey Martin did really well on the men's side, and then obviously Alex Kazan did amazing on the.
Not just that they finished in the top 12. Alex Kazan won the Most Improved award. Bailey
Yes.
Martin went from not making it for 2 straight years, despite
Mhm.
maybe being good enough, to 12th. I picked him 38th. Now,
Yeah.
part of that is just I didn't know. I've
Yeah.
never seen he doesn't travel to compete in other off-season events, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we know. It's
Yeah.
pretty damn good against the best in the world. So, and he posted a nice video opening his invitation, and it's clearly very important and special to him, and he's going to make the trip over. The
Yeah.
interesting thing is, for those athletes that have to make a far trip to be there, it's one thing to do it for the games, to come a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks early and invest the money
Hmm.
and the time and everything else that's required to do that to set yourself up for success. How early is he going to come over before Rogue? And will that potentially, if he's not able to make that sacrifice again,
Yeah.
then will we, maybe we don't see the same type of performance, and
Hmm.
that's potentially a reason why. Well, I'm not sure.
My advice, and I'm nobody that knows anything. If I was
That's
someone like him, I mean, you're gonna get. I think what Rug has done in the past is $2,000 for travel stipend for athletes outside of North America, 1,000 for those in America. Roughly, the cost of a flight from Australia to the U.S. is probably gonna be around $2,000. Um, so I would try to come early, and maybe he hasn't physically been in underdogs like the camp, you know. Um, so he's going to have Alex and Kyra that are going to be training for the competition. It'd be a good idea for both him and Ricky to come maybe a week early and just see underdogs. Ricky's been there obviously before, and go from there to Austin. It's not that far of a trip, and not that
that no, that
expensive.
that definitely makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I would do. But and knowing, and we both know Kotler pretty well, I'm pretty sure he would be ecstatic to have those guys come in a week early. If it was up to him, they would be living there right now. But that would probably be the most ideal situation. Having 4 athletes, 2 males, 2 females, you could just have, it'll be fun. It's not very many opportunities that you get all those athletes together to do something like that. And this would be a perfect opportunity, especially since they're going to be offering the money to do it, and it's not coming out of their pocket per se. Um, Moving on to the female side, um, Danny Spiegel really she had a bigger lead before they made some of the adjustments, but she still stayed in first. Menon, who made it through the qualifier last year, to kind of just, it was kind of
By
like
the
her.
way, I
Yeah.
think Rogue did the right thing with the handstand push-up, since they had
Hmm.
listed it as two
Yeah.
different. They listed it as one thing and had a picture for another thing. I
Hmm.
feel like the obvious decision was the one that they made, which is like, yeah, we screwed that up, and
Yeah.
we're going to adhere to both of them.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
obviously you prefer not to have the mistake on the front end, but
Hmm.
once it's exposed that that was the case on the back end, I don't think there was a better way to handle that. So credit to Rogue for that.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of was mentioning at the beginning is like they did a really good job of showing of just putting that out there, and good job for them. Two names that dropped out, Taylor Howe and Sydney McAlishan, were the ones that were in the top five that fell out due to penalties. Obviously, we talked about Sydney, and then Taylor, who was I think believe second or third before the changes were made. But Manon, who made it to the games, made it to Rogue Invitational last year through the qualifier. She returned, so she seems to be the rogue type of athlete, especially when it comes to qualifier. Elena, who you got to see this past weekend.
Well, not only that, I just mentioned she was a top finisher amongst the qualifiers last year, so she, she
Yeah,
held her own out there too.
yeah, exactly. And this is an athlete who at one point, due to last year, was considering quitting CrossFit because she was just so frustrated of coming up short. And she was one of those athletes like Annika Greer who missed the deadline due to a time change for submitting her score for in quarterfinals. So it was kind of like a wasted season for her. But kudos for her, and her hard work has paid off, obviously. Um, and Elena, and there's that name Lauren Fisher again. It's really cool seeing Lauren up there. You know,
Dude, let's just say, I know she didn't qualify, but I'm just looking at this.
mhm.
Lena Richter's overhead squat was more than Kyra Milligan and Christine Kohlenbrander.
Yeah, yep.
If
You
you
wouldn't
saw
think
these
that.
three women next to each other, standing physically next to each other, you would never believe it. That's insane.
I wouldn't have believed it until I saw Lena at the games during the Olympic complex. Her and Ingrid were significantly stronger than they've been in the past. So when I saw, I
I
was
mean, she has absolutely been putting in the work, but
yeah,
like
but yeah, in terms of
Christine
body,
Kohlenbrander and Kyra Milligan, you think barbell.
yes, you do.
Lena
100.
Richter is not that big of a woman.
No, she's not. She's her frame. Yeah, when you compare it to those two, yeah, if you line those three up, you wouldn't think that Lena would be the one that wins that workout. But
Anyway, I just saw that and I felt like I had to say something.
yeah, and then obviously Christine. I think this is Rogue is one of these competitions where she can, just like Danny, she can have one of those viral moments. Uh, Kyra is someone I talked to before this competition. I'm like, hey, you have a really good chance of finishing in the top five, and she didn't believe it. And then when and here she is, she's making it the Rogue. So what a great achievement for her. It's someone I have a personal relationship with. I'm just really proud of her that she's going to be able to compete at this event with these type of athletes. I mean, we talked about before the confidence boost, and for someone like Kyra, I mean, we saw what it
And
did.
someone who's, I believe her ambition is to eventually qualify for the games as an individual. She
Correct.
went on a team this year. She went
Hmm.
into a great environment in Mayhem, got a ton of experience, had success, went to the games, wore the leader jersey,
Hmm.
and now she's parlaying that into an opportunity to compete at the highest level that you can in the off-season competition. These are the steps that, for Emily Lundberg, for Kyra Milligan, like the journey can sometimes be long, but the reward can be great.
Yeah. So I don't know. Overall, I think this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to Rogue. Our plans are obviously be friendly. We're going to be there. Um,
And those
yeah.
tests on the road qualifier were hard. And
Oh
just
my god.
ask anyone. Like, no,
Yeah.
there were no joke. You had to be really strong and really fit to make it. And I think that the result of that is that I think top to bottom men's and women's field's the best we've seen yet at Rogue.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see what events they put out. Obviously, we're gonna be there covering it, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that'll probably be I think that'll be my first time I'm on the road in terms of been kind of
Yeah,
keeping.
same.
You've been on the road, but I'm kind of like just been chilling. Uh, um, Couple other things I want to do before I let you go, Brian. I know it's probably close to midnight your time, but
I was hoping for an hour on the podcast today, but then I realized that it wasn't going to be an hour.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just tell me to shut up, but
All right, let me
all
have
right,
it. What's left?
all right. So it's kind of like wanted to give some love to the Frasers and Sammy and Matt.
Do
Obviously,
you
they had
actually know what? Do you know the full name of the baby? It
Eddie.
just says Eddie, but I
Yeah.
know that's a nickname. It's
Oh,
got to be
okay.
a
Yeah,
nickname, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I was like scrolling through trying to see like size and weight and name, full name,
Mhm.
middle name, whatever. I didn't see it, so I guess I could ask someone, but
Yeah. From my understanding, they actually had the baby. I think 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just
that's what they said, right?
anyone knows Matt and Sammy. They do a really good job of keeping their private life private. Usually after the games, they take like a week where they go off and they 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 turn off their cell phones and they just they just disconnect. And I think this was like a perfect timing for it. So now that they're back, and yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, that I don't think I've ever seen Matt smile like that where he shows teeth. So that's pretty
No,
cool.
I definitely have seen it, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was cool. I was up there in July, and Matt, they were nervous because Matt's like, I might have to leave the games at any
Yeah.
second. Like, who knows? And I was joking with him that maybe baby would have the same birthday as me, which is a few days after the games. And there
Mhm.
was someone else up there that had a birthday like the week after mine, but it seemed like she was a little bit late, and I was kind of waiting, and I was wondering, and so then they posted this a couple weeks after the fact, and
Yeah.
congratulations to them. Awesome. Love to see them happy. And
And some more congratulations in order for the man. I don't know if we pay this guy anymore. I mean, congratulations to him. Got married. It looked like a great wedding. It was in Telluride, Colorado. A who's who of people were there. I think Matt was actually there as well. Cooper, Jason St. Clair, his agents who've been around for him forever. O'Keefe was there. So some
yeah, Keith was looking good, huh?
yeah, they look sharp in those suits. So congratulations to Josh, who is now they're partnered with Paper Street Coffee, his Good Dudes Coffee. So hopefully we'll be able to be seeing a little bit more of Josh. But congratulations to him. Looked like a great wedding. So yeah. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is giveaway. We haven't done a giveaway in a while, and we currently have one going on. Uh, we
Okay.
we partnered up with our buddy Nick over at Mint Trading Cards, aka Wad Zombie, and giveaway alert. So now available the James Sprague rookie card. I think I'm getting mine today. It should be in today at some point, so I can't physically show it to you, but this is it. So the rules to it: like the post, follow Mint Trading Cards, Sprague, James Sprague, and B.Friendly. Tag a friend. Each tag's worth one entry. Make sure to create a new comment for every tag. It starts today, closes on Thursday. We'll announce the winner on Friday. Uh, so that's about our involvement is like I supplied the picture. Brian did the write up on the back. Our friend Tyler Watkins at the Heat One app, he did the design on this, and then Nick's the guy that foots the bill for all of that. So it's been a really cool thing to be a part of, and this is a really cool card. I know James is really super stoked. You know James a lot
Yeah,
better
you
than
can
I.
see how excited he is right there.
Exactly. He's super stoked about it. It's his rookie card, so it's pretty neat.
And a little Easter egg in the background there.
Oh yeah, if you guys don't notice,
I
it's
never
actually
noticed this.
yeah.
I couldn't focus on anything else other than his
Who
arm.
brought it up? Was it Nick that brought that up?
I don't know.
Yeah, but we have it's I guess it's unofficially Brian Friend's first card too, and Mike Halpin because that there you are in the back. So, but yeah, thanks. This is just
What a
uh,
guy, just a great picture. Like you talk about a rookie card, like this is the moment that he
mhm,
knew. And
they
his
made the game.
celebration was so epic. Like that's where we're all standing up and smiling. Like, and then this ends up being who's the photographer for this one? Do you know?
It's me.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, athlete's eye photography. Yeah, that takes credit for that. I didn't pick up a camera
I
much.
actually didn't know because we don't always use your pictures. Sometimes we
Yeah,
outsource them.
yeah, definitely. Especially probably do more of it now. But yeah, this is one of the few times I did pick up the camera and I actually did shoot it. So this is what I got. So, um, but
Let's go, James. I love that picture, man. I'm
yeah,
sure
I
that I'll
think
have one. I better have one waiting for me when I get back there.
um, yeah. So you're gonna see a lot of these cards rolling out. We got Christine Cullen Brander, I think, is in the. We have one of her. We have some other cards coming out. You guys are really gonna enjoy this.
I think I've written at least half a dozen that are rolling out at some point over the next couple months. So
Yeah, I think Mick was saying either every week or every 2 weeks he wants to do one, but yeah, he's got some catching up to do. There right now, we're just waiting for the production. Yeah, so pretty excited about this. So it's pretty cool. That's about it, Brian. I'm sorry. That's all I got. I just wanted to kind
Oh,
of put
nice
those.
short one today.
Yeah, nice short one. But yeah,
I got to get to sleep. I got disc golf in the morning.
oh
I
yeah,
play
you
two
do.
courses according to Marcus.
Yeah. And speaking of which, Marcus he lives in Mexico, by the way. So he will not be joining you. Um, one last comment I want to throw up there. Oop, I don't know if you saw this earlier. From CJ, watch Finland, Pitt, and Madrid. Thanks for the great coverage. Have to say that weirdly, Finland was most watchable, followed by Pitt and then Madrid, which is probably the inverse order of the budget. So, you know,
Well, like I talked about with Madrid, this is a company that hasn't done it before, and on the budget side, I'm not entirely sure, but I do know the company that did the broadcast for Finland has done CrossFit competitions previously, and they have done broadcasts previously for obviously as well. They had a small team, but a pretty experienced and good setup. But that's good feedback to know. And I'm sorry I didn't see who that was there. But if there's anything specifically about like that you wanted to elaborate on what made it more watchable or what made it less watchable, send it my way because I work with a lot of competitions in different capacities when it comes to the broadcast, and the only reason we're doing that is so that people can enjoy it and get as much information in a meaningful way as possible. So if you feel like you have something that's usable in terms of feedback, send it my way and I'll try my best to communicate that to the people that would be able to make it happen.
Nick said it was Watkins that noticed it. The details. Leave it to Tyler to notice the details. But yeah, definitely the feedback is always good. I mean, if you reach out to Brian and his own personal Instagram, or you can reach out to B.Friendly Fitness. Either way, he's going to read both of them. Brian, did you see that message from Training Think Tank for the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully we get Brian out there to expand his wisdom out there, put that out there in the world. But
No, that's another place they have been asking if it was possible to get me down there for a while, and I mean like at least a year, maybe 2 years. So now that I'm
yeah.
living in the southeast, I absolutely need to get out there. So looking
Yeah.
forward to doing that at some point.
So Brian's got Halmstad this weekend. That's going to be fun.
Yeah,
Probably a whole new.
it's actually going to be cool. There are some decent athletes competing, but it's mostly a community event. It's all teams. There's male, female, male, female teams. The RX division, which is the top division, have 2 days. Intermediate and scaled have 1 day. I'm competing in the intermediate men's teams of 2 division on Sunday, and then there's a photographer, Kim. I don't know what his Instagram is. I just got it. That is going to be up there. I met him in Madrid, and he and I are going to be doing some stuff together just to bring a little bit of light and action. Jaeger Kim,
Okay.
Jaeger Kim on Instagram. And I will be putting out some content, behind the scenes stuff, just, whatever. And I'm going to be up there with, before the competition starts. I never really get to do this. I'm pretty excited. So we're going to go to the venue on Thursday. Then we're going to go to Aleco, like the manufacturing hub.
Awesome.
And then I'm going to help set up the competition, like work
Ooh.
with Roger, work with the team to do that, which is something I usually don't get. I might take a break and go play some disc golf, but I'm gonna help a lot with that and see the
Well, Rod,
process and be involved.
seeing Roger work, he's definitely. I've seen that guy work at many
He's a
events. So
savage, dude.
yes, he's gonna be. You might not be. You might not have enough
And
energy.
Patrick, you'll like this. The guy that I'm
Yeah.
competing with is a business partner of his. He's also a
Uh huh.
personal trainer for an IndyCar driver. He's actually
Really?
been traveling around the U.S. Yeah, his name is Alex.
Oh.
I think the pronunciation is Ellie, ELGH. That's his
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Alex Ellie.
Okay.
And he's been doing this tour in the U.S. with the IndyCar driver that he trains. And
Hmm.
so our team name is the Road Warriors.
You guys both been traveling. It's like inverse. You're in Europe. He's in the U.S. That's cool.
I
We
know,
need
I
to
couldn't
meet.
believe it. I was like, hey, I was like, dude, I don't know how my fitness is going to be. Like, I'm working out a couple of times a week. I'm traveling a lot. He's like, oh, I'm going here, here, here. I'm like, you're in the States? He's like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
coming back at the same week. I'm here now and he's not here yet.
Yeah. Speaking of like content, you brought up some content creators. I wanted to kind of also give a shout out to our buddy here at Truth Films. He's the one that was providing us all the reels and the stuff or content from Madrid. He's a really talented guy. I got to meet him. Hopefully, we'll be working with him at Dubai and hopefully working with him at future events as well. But give this guy a follow. He's a really cool dude and just talented, super talented.
Yeah, hardworking, nice guy. It's the first time that I've really gotten to interact and meet with him. So Marius, awesome dude. Thank you for everything this weekend.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't think he's going to be there next week because you leave Sweden, you go to Oslo, you go to Oslo. How long are you going to be Oslo for? About a week.
A couple of days. I
Okay,
have the
good.
itinerary. I just
Yeah,
taking it one step at a time.
yeah, I
I have
got you.
this competition on Sunday. I only looked at the workouts like 4 hours ago for the first time, and they've been out for a while.
Yeah. But you're going to be in Oslo. You'll be spending a lot. Obviously, you're going to go to CrossFit Oslo. Get to gather a lot of information there from my talks with the people there. It's they got some big plans for the upcoming season. We're talking multiple teams, multiple athletes. You know, I mean, it's kind of neat. I mean,
I'm
right now,
excited.
yeah.
You mentioned that lifting event at the game. As I was watching that, and then I saw it was Lena and her team. They were talking to this guy in the sidelines, and it was
Mm,
Joachim,
yep,
their
yep,
coach over there. And so I
yep.
went over and talked to him for a little bit, told him I was coming out there, and really excited to get to know him a little better and see everything that they're doing. And you are absolutely right. And I think that it's up in I think this is the case in Norway and Sweden, and I think Finland's not that far behind, where they basically have the support from the country
Yes,
for the fitness and or
regulated.
the functional fitness or whatever. And that's like it's kind of like in at the competition in Finland I was at, one of the title sponsors is the city of Turku, where they
Hmm.
host it. It's like Madison embracing the games, like when the city or the country buys into what this is about. Now we were talking about leveling up and the doors open in a totally different type of way.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% that way. I mean, the IF3 is really kind of like made that happen. And I know we don't talk about the IF3 as much, and we should be talking about it, but the IF3 has been able to kind of be a governing organization and reach out to a lot of these countries and say, hey, this is why you need to do stuff like this. It's not just because we want functional fitness in Olympics, but overall, it's going to increase the quality of life for your whole country. And Norway and Sweden, these countries which are notorious for taking their health seriously, they bought into it. So functional fitness is a part of their curriculum. It's part of their lifestyle. I mean, talking to some of my
And then those are if the country is supporting that initiative, then those are the athletes that become represent, like they can represent them in the media, they can
mhm,
celebrate them. Think about the impact that Annie Thorsdottir had on the Icelandic
Iceland.
community. I don't know if the government is necessarily supporting that in that way there, but an athlete that makes it, that's
Mhm,
celebrated, that's recognized by the government, by the media, becomes the role models for kids.
mhm.
And now you
I
have a
think
healthy generation going forward.
and I think that's what Chris and Holt has done for that this new generation. Talking to Saher, Matilda Garnes, all these athletes, they all look up to Chris and Holta.
Leah Storen, the
Leah
Storm.
Storm, Leah Storm's perfect example. I mean, she's being coached by her. So, I mean, she's a local celeb, not local. She's a nation celebrity there. I mean, they have like their own version of I forgot. It's like some type of reality TV show where it's like it's like a fitness show, but it's a reality TV show that she's been on, and so it's really cool. I'm really excited for you. I'm actually pretty jealous as someone you're going to be making it to Norway more than I before I have, and and I have interest in Norway, so I can't. I'm excited for you, and yeah, I'm excited about the whole week. So yeah, safe travels. Again, so Patreon, like, subscribe, uh, follow us anywhere you can, supporting us. We love it. Continue on. Oh, enter the contest. That's really good. That supports our people that support us. So from Brian for Brian over in Sweden and me here in St. Louis, be friendly, our friends.